I'm going to Rome. You understand?
How far can you go before your nerves break, before your heart stops, before your eyes leave your body?
You understand? You understand? You understand?
No fear has ever come this close. No suspense has ever gone this far. When you least expect it, when you have no way to fight back, a stabbing nightmare becomes a living terror. For every murder, for every victim, there is no warning. Don't blink. Don't turn around. Don't even move. Now you'll witness the darkest vision of horror.
Yes, y'all, it's going down right now. Episode 230 of the Triple Shots of Moodz and Horror podcast is coming at you live and direct with the homie, JP, also known as Double Shot J. And of course, I be your host, the Moodz. Yeah. What's going on, guys? Oh,
guys.
I just pluralized that, didn't I? Apparently I'm talking to myself. Moodz, how's it going? That's one of my biggest pet peeves in the world, right? Is when people talk in third person. I absolutely motherfucking loathe when people talk in third person. Do you have like weird pet peeves like that?
Yeah.
Because I always feel like the wife always says to me, she's like, you have so many pet peeves. And I'm like, I really do. It's probably because I just like to complain about shit. But that one legitimately drives me nuts, man. Like I don't know if I've ever told this story before, but I met this person one time and they were literally talking in third person. And I thought she was joking. And I was like, that's funny, and then she just like, she had that dead, like, look on her face, like dead serious look on her face. And I was like, oh, she's totally not joking. She literally talks in third person. And then I started to get a little bit freaked out. I'm like, who the fuck talks in third person? Like, it's a weird thing. When you really think about the mentality of talking in third person, like, are you, like, what is that? Why would anybody talk in third person? I don't know. Anyways.
It's a little weird.
It is weird. I think it's a very, very strange attribute to certain people. It's very awkward and odd. I don't know why people wouldn't recognize that. But anyways, and as I usually say, I'll digress from that because we already tangent off from what the show is. Episode 230, Umberto Lenzi 2. Here in Italian Horror Month. Yes, this is a week late because last week we had some, I'm just going to say Skype issues. I wouldn't say it was internet issues, but something was going on with Skype. I couldn't connect properly. It was cutting me out for minutes at a time. So we said, fuck this. And you probably...
Yeah, it was actually like really disappointing because we had Dave that week.
Yeah.
And so all three of us hopped on to actually record. We wasted about, I don't know, at least 2 hours, I would say, trying to see if it would work. And then not only did we not ever get to we literally started the intro like 3 different times and recorded like, I don't know, 15 or so minutes before it would just crap out. So not only did we like attempt to record the episode, but then we also had to end up pushing it back, which because Italian Horror Month is November, it pushed one of the episodes into December, which isn't the worst deal in the world. I mean, who really cares? Like, oh, it came out in December instead of November. It's like nobody will even notice, really.
No.
And what sucks is now it's just us two on this one, and Dave watched the movies, of course. It basically made a whole mess out of everything. But that's the damn technology for you, dude.
Yeah, and it's a fucking mystery too, because like it wasn't an internet thing. Like my connectivity was 100%. I was, my upload, everything was running so good. I just couldn't connect to, or I couldn't stay connected. And what it comes down to is like a distance thing. Sometimes Skype just doesn't work properly based on distances and blah, blah, blah. There's a whole lot of variables and semantics that go into it, but it seemed, and the weird thing is this week, everything is the exact same but it's working totally fine. So, you know, that's the ups and downs to recording when you're like 2,100 miles apart. But it doesn't actually happen very often. You know, in the like 10 years we've been recording, how many episodes have we had to like just not record because of internet issues? Not a whole lot. We've had power outages and things like that we're obviously not, we can't prevent those, but actual like connectivity issues, not very, like every once in a while it'll happen. But, you know, for 230 episodes of record, we haven't really had to like postpone a show because we're like, holy shit, I can't fucking hear you. Right?
I think there was really only like on one hand of, because normally we reschedule it the same week, but now it's like way harder to do that.
It is.
But I do remember there was an Exploding Heads episode where it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
The internet was like messed up or something. They were on for a top 10 and it like ruined the whole vibe, killed my vibe.
Right.
And then there was another time, this is actually, it was Dave's first episode. It was Argento, it was the Phantom of the Opera. Phantom of the Opera. What was the other one? Sleepless
Card Player?
Card Player.
Yeah.
I think. And my internet went out, and that was when we were recording like later at night.
Yeah.
And I literally drove to Carly's house and got on her internet to finish the episode.
Right. I remember that one.
I remember that one.
Yeah. I mean, you know, like I said, considering how much we've recorded over the years, we haven't had a whole lot of issues. Like I said, oddly enough, we don't get power outages a lot, but it's happened 2 or 3 times on game day where the powers went out. And I'm like, what the fuck is with that? It's like the gods just don't want to they just want to be difficult sometimes, but I don't know, man. I know it went out maybe last year at one time, right? We were recording, the power went out in a recording, which was weird. Like in the middle of recording, my power went out. It was fucking strange. But anyways, that was pretty uninteresting. So let's move along. Italian Month, episode 2, Umberto Lenzi 2. So we got on this episode. What were the first? We did Spasmo, Nightmare City, and Cannibal Ferox in Lenzi 1, right? That was years ago.
Yeah.
We did that years ago. That was kind of an interesting show because you got a giallo, you got a zombie film, and you got a cannibal film. So that was kind of a all-rounded mixed show. For tonight's episode, we got 7 Bloodstained Orchids from 1972, which has been talked about on the show a couple times. Not fully reviewed, or maybe it was because we did 1972. Did that make any top 10 list? Do you remember? In 72?
I don't think it made any top 10.
Okay.
List at all.
So it was probably mentioned obviously on the show, but I don't know if there was any major discussion about 7 Bloodstained Orchids. Then we got Eyeball from 1975, and we also have a later entry, which is Ghosthouse. So we got 2 giallos and a supernatural nightmare logic, whatever you want to fucking call it. Later Lenzi. We'll just call it Later Lenzi because all Later Lenzi album or movies are very similar to this. So yeah, anyways. So kind of a different show. I'm
Wait, this was Dave's pick.
This actually is Dave's pick, isn't it?
He missed his own pick.
Right.
This is like classic Jeremy move.
Oh man, that's fucking hilarious. So he picked Lenzi, picked a naughty. So who picked Mart? Was that the listeners?
Yeah, the listeners, more so the Patreon group picked the show.
Okay.
It wasn't really posted publicly. It was just for the Patreon people. So yeah, they actually picked the Martino show, which was a pretty good pick.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, that was inevitable though. We were going to definitely be doing another Martino. I mean, there's probably going to be more Martino shows, to be honest. He's got a lot of films.
Yeah, not next year, but maybe the year after.
Yeah. Well, next year, like, I mean, I guess.
Oh, we didn't get that. We talked about this, but we didn't actually. They don't know because it never recorded.
So this was actually one of the conversations that we had last week that we had to kind of scrap was we got ahead of ourselves this year because we started thinking about just Italian directors and things like that. Or I don't know, it might have been more me, but I was thinking because this year we kind of went back and did part 2s and part 3s for guys and stuff like that. And of course there is one director here; it's the first time. But I was thinking for next year, like it would be kind of cool to do all first time directors and kind of make the shows like good too, because we've done a lot of first time directors, but some of the shows have been hit and miss with the type of titles and stuff. So next year we have 4 first time directors, and the films that make up the shows are all really good. It's going to be a really, really interesting year for.
And actually, most of the films I have not seen.
Mm-hmm.
I believe this is probably the most that I haven't seen since like one of the first years. Where I think like the first couple years it was like literally like 10 out of 12 or 11 out of 12 I hadn't seen. Where now it's more like, I think this year is like 50-50. I'd seen half and not seen half. But yeah, that's actually I'm really excited for next year because it'll be our 9th year. And it I like that we're doing something that I don't think ever done since the first year, where we've literally done all new people.
Yeah.
The first year would have been obviously all new because you can't have done them before, but I don't think we've done all new people anywhere after that.
Well, it was impossible. It was impossible because we did Argento like every single fucking year, so it was always a repeat in there. But
right, exactly.
But like what makes next year very special is because, you know, with home media being the way it's been going the last few years, like we're kind of living in this golden age of collecting and, you know, films getting really good releases, is that a show like Next Year is made possible because of all these boutique companies that are just dropping all these films, like all these obscure films, and now they're readily available for us to do instead of watching like, you know,
10 years ago
VHS rips and all that kind of bullshit. Yeah, like this show wasn't possible 10 years ago because a lot of these films we could have found, but very old, probably cut.
There was literally one that we couldn't find. Right. I remember we did 1996 top 10, and we were trying to see one of the films. I won't spoil what it is from that year. You probably figured out if you did enough research. It's Italian, and we literally could not find it. Like Jeremy tried, I tried, Moodz tried. We tried our both legal and non-legal ways.
It's still
to figure it out.
It's still not easy to find. It's actually one of the movies that doesn't really have like a great like region 1 release, but Dave fortunately does have it. But yeah, so that is one of the films from one of the directors. But like I said, though,
it is possible. I would not be surprised if all of a sudden we see that within the next year, just because like the way things have been going, like so many titles have gotten picked up. Like, did you see that Four Flies on Grey Velvet is finally coming out on a non-DVD? Yeah,
you want to hear something really fucking strange? So every year when Italian month comes around, I'm always like kind of searching around for shit to buy, like maybe upgrade or whatever. Like I have a really big Italian collection, so sometimes things are a little bit scarcer. But of course, Four Flies Grey Velvet is one of the films that has a region 1 DVD release, so it's just pretty crappy, to be honest. And but Shameless had released the Blu-ray. That. Yeah, so Shameless released the Blu-ray, a bunch of years back, and now Shameless is kind of bought up by Arrow and blah blah blah. So you can still get the Blu-ray; it's available still. But I just never picked it up for whatever reasons. I don't know why I never grabbed that Blu-ray, and I literally added it to my cart within the last couple weeks. And of course, Severin goes and announces the region 1 Blu-ray release for it as part of their Black Friday stuff. And I got to say, man, Severin's announcements for their Black Friday sale this year are crazy. Like, there's a lot of good shit in there, man. This is probably one of the better ones they've ever done. They have like 8 or 9 releases that are all pretty cool, man, and unique and shit. And I'm like, wow. So
yeah, I literally didn't plan on doing much at the Severin sale.
Yeah.
But then once they started announcing things, I was like, well, there's at least like 3 or 4 things that I have to get now.
Yeah.
Four Flies on Grey Velvet is like a must because, like, one, the DVD is not the greatest, and I don't think that it has both versions of the film or even the best version of the film.
No.
Whereas the Blu-ray, I hear, is like awful. That Shameless Blu-ray.
Well, and that's actually partly the reason why I never grabbed it. But I was like, I've been waiting years and years. This is part of the reason. I was like, well, we're going to get a region 1 release. And you're right. And like this Blu-ray came out a bunch of years ago. It's been a long wait. And like I almost lost my patience, and then this shit gets announced. But yeah, you're right though. Like the reviews on it were pretty bad. Some of the Shameless Blu-rays were pretty shoddy though, and some of them were cut too, right? So just due to the UK, to the rating board. This
edition that Severin's doing is very nice. I think it's a website exclusive, so you have to buy it through Severin.
Yeah, that's okay.
But dude, the way I think out of all the filmmakers that we know and love, from John Carpenter to Wes Craven to Lucio Fulci, I literally think that Argento is getting the most love right now. Dude, think of all the films of his: Deep Red, Tenebrae, Phenomena, Bird with the Crystal Plumage.
Oh yeah, all those like
all these
extreme
films are coming to 4K in these amazing editions. On top of that, I think every single one of his films, except for Do You Like Hitchcock, and Giallo are on Blu-ray now. At least Blu-ray.
Right.
After Four Flies, in Region 1, everything is on Blu-ray, which is pretty incredible. But now we're starting to see all his films get these 4K releases, which is nuts. Even his other film, the comedy or whatever it is, that's coming on the Severin sale as well.
Yeah.
On Blu-ray. And then there was that show, some Italian horror show that was released.
Dude, that's super
cool. I don't know
cool.
what it is, but it looked really neat.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too. And then there's the Luigi Cozy stuff, or is that what it is? No, I think there's like a Cozy movie that's being released too, which I didn't really know much about either. And I'm like, wow, these are some pretty interesting fucking announcements, man. But
yeah, what is his name? The guy who did Day of the Beast, Iglesias or whatever.
Yeah.
He has a film coming out too on there.
Yeah, I can't remember what that was called. I haven't seen that one before, so I can't bring it up right now. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, no, the announcements are crazy, and I just thought it was kind of interesting because there was like half of them at least were Italian, and I'm like, well, it's perfect for Italian month. You announce all these obscure and fucking straight up goody Italian releases for Italian month. I mean, they're fans, they're listening. So
right, dude.
But yeah, no, this one really got me. Really fancied my pickle, man. I was like, holy shit, dude, these are really crazy announcements. So, but Severin does that though, man. They release some things I'm not like fully interested in, but like they release a lot of good stuff, man. Really,
I don't remember if it was last year or the year before, but I thought their announcements were like really, really weak.
I did too. And then
like,
I ended
what the hell is this?
I ended up picking up a bunch of these releases. Like I didn't really know much about them, like The Forbidden Door and stuff like that, which is from the same director of Satan's Slaves remake and things like that. And it's a really good movie. Like some of those releases turned out to be actually really good. But they were a little bit more modern and stuff. This is kind of a different angle. Everything's like old Italian, just very, very obscure shit. So yeah, pretty excited. But yeah, next year is going to be, like I said, man, it's a show that could not have happened 10 years ago based on the releases that we have nowadays. Like all these movies are on, I think every single one of them, besides one of them, is readily available from our favorite boutique labels. So that all the nice transfers and shit, like it's just incredible what's happening with, foreign films and these boutique labels, what they're doing. So, it should just keep getting better and better. So for years to come with Italian Horror Month, maybe we'll just keep getting more and more, and we'll be able to do more first time directors and things like that. So, but I'm super excited for next year's show. Or next year's month, because like I love the majority of these movies, and it's just crazy that we're able to do these now. That's what's blowing my mind. I'm so excited for that, man. So
yeah, and honestly, like the year after the 10th year, I want to do something like big, and maybe a little out of the norm from what we do.
Right.
But yeah, so the next 2 years of Italian Horror Month, this one isn't even halfway through yet, and the next 2 years are already looking good, like they're going to be cool. But it's called The Devil's Game, by the way, for those that was curious. That it's a 6 hour long. It's 6 hour long films from 1981, and it includes Mario Bava's final directing.
Yeah, that's
work.
right. That's right.
Which is cool. That's a cool release right there. I'd never even heard of this.
No, man. And that's what you're right. Okay. It's called The Venus of Isle. And it's got Daria Nicolodi in it too, which is kind of cool. So yeah, that's the one that's part of that. So, but yeah, this is right. Yeah. The other Argento, The 5 Days is the comedy. It's the one.
Yeah. The 5 Days.
I'm not actually a big fan of a lot of like the late 60s, early 70s Italian comedies and stuff. I think it's more of a translation thing. When you're watching the films, like the comedy just doesn't work for a Western audience as well. There's just some films I can't fully get into.
Honestly, like all of these releases look pretty solid.
I Miss You Hugs and Kisses. I Miss You Hugs and Kisses was the big one for me because it's like one of the last Video Nasties to get a release. This one this one literally never had any release. So I Miss You Hug and Kisses is like one of the last two. So this is like a really, really big release. So thank you, the gods over at Severin Films, for doing that one. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Absolutely
I think this
ridiculous.
is literally one of the best years they've had for like the Black Friday announcements.
Right.
And then, dude, did you know that Severin made Birdemic 3?
Third one?
Yeah, dude.
The fact that there was actually a sequel is even ridiculous, but a third
It's
one?
called Birdemic 3 Sea Eagle. I wonder if it has the same director. It better.
Oh man, that's crazy. That is absolutely ridiculous. I never saw the second one. The first one, I remember laughing so hard at it and being like, this can't even be real life. Because that shit was
the thing is like, I remember like the director talking about the movie, and he was talking about it as if he was fucking Hitchcock, bro. Like,
see,
that's what was funny about
I remember hearing about this. I never saw it, but I remember commenting about that and being like, I think he's very self-aware that the movie is a piece of trash. But I think, he did it funny because like he knew what he was doing. I don't think he was intending to make a really good movie. I don't know. See, the way I don't know, perceive
from what
it,
I had heard,
I think it's part of the act. I think it's part of the act, man. I think he's playing it off like
that would be.
I think he's literally self-aware, and he's playing it off. He's playing a character, like he's playing it like, I made this really good movie, and he's selling it like he did, but he knows what he did, and I think that's part of the act. I think he's charactering that shit up, man, because he has to be. How could anybody in their right minds who has the means and the skills to make a real movie make something so shitty and think it was good like that? Like, I get it. There's crazy people out there. Like David Sterling's a little bit nuts like that. Like, he legitimately thinks some of his movies are crazy good and stuff. And, to the average moviegoer, they're like, those are terrible, right? So people don't even know shit. They're like, those are fucking awful. But I get it. There's some crazies in the world. But I mean, let's face it, man. Like, that is like some of the worst superimposed effects and shit I've ever seen in my life, dude. It's like, you can do better effects with like the free editing material or editing programs on your fucking new laptop that you buy. Let's face it. So, but I mean, I would like to give him the benefit of the doubt and be like, bro, like, you were self-aware, you're playing this shit up. And I think that just kind of adds to the mystique of it a little bit too, because let's face it, man, that shit is just, it's belly laughing inducing, man. Like, I was pissing myself watching that shit. I was like, this is just hilarious, because like there is, directors and filmmakers that make movies purposely bad for the sake of making a bad movie, like that they're trying to make these bad movies. And you're like, and then you watch these and you're like, okay, this is like ridiculous. This is so ridiculous. Like, what was the one that we reviewed on the podcast the one time, and you just fucking, you hated it so bad because
dude, hold on. I'm sorry.
What's up? I don't know what the fuck is going on. The movie is totally escaping my mind right now. But anyways, it's a great example of a film that's like so fucking bad.
What's that? What?
Oh, sorry. What was that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't stop laughing at this. The director was interviewed in 2016 saying he wants to make Birdemic 3 Sea Eagle, which will be the last in the Birdemic series. So after that interview, he attempted to crowdfund the film by launching an Indiegogo project, which only raised $596 out of its $500,000 goal.
What?
And then later on, he did a Kickstarter, and it raised $230 out of his $200,000 goal.
$200,000 goal. He raised 230. Dude, people usually make bigger donations than that. Just, one single person. Oh my God.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is nuts, dude. Like, literally, sometimes people will already have money from a financer that they'll then have them donate to the Kickstarter, because half the time people are too lazy to research themselves. So if they just see people donating to a Kickstarter like it's 50% of its goal in like the first week, then more people like, oh, this must be a good project to get involved in. You know what I mean? So most people will actually have like $10,000 donated at one time from like somebody who already was financing the film. You know what I mean? But just doing it through like Kickstarter so that it artificially makes it seem like there's interest.
Right.
He didn't even have that.
Well, I mean, I can't really blame it though, to be honest. I mean, well, some people just don't have. Some people just don't have the same sense of humor, man. Because like, I mean, you hear people talk about Birdemic, and they're just like, they don't even laugh when they talk about it. You know, that's how bad it is to some people. Which is, if you can't take that shit, you can't take that serious. So,
dude, that's just nuts.
Yeah,
dude, it's crazy. Like, dude, his goal together between those two things was $700,000. And he raised like a total of under 1,000.
And this was for the. So what was the actual budget on the first movie? Like it must be
it was around like 500,000 actually.
The first movie cost him 500,000.
I think so.
How? Like I don't understand. Like I'm being dead serious. Like I don't understand where the money would have went to that. Because
never mind. It was under 10,000.
Okay, so yeah,
that makes sense.
And that's including buying the cameras and But seriously though, like even under 10 grand, I mean, you compare. Say even if it was. Oh no, what was Paranormal Activity? It was 5 grand, right? Or was it 10 grand?
It was like 8, I think.
8 grand. So it was between 5 and 10,000. And you look at the difference in quality of the movies. So say, relatively speaking, the same budgets. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's one of those things where, like, if you're making a film for a lower budget, you kind of need to make it within your means, right? Like, you don't put a giant action sequence on top of a skyscraper that ends with a character falling off in a $10,000 movie.
No,
right? Like
you make like, a movie that's set in one location, like Paranormal Activity, and you do a lot of
or like Cube or something,
and you use good writing and trickery and things like that. You know, to sell the story and the narrative, right? You make it work like that. But yeah, you can't go out of your means. You're right. Like you're making a movie for $8,000 and you're like, well, I want to have this kind of like Ronin car chase in this film, but yeah, I don't know if that's going to work, bro. So.
Yeah. Like, I don't think that we're going to get a tank for this scene.
Yeah, you know what I mean? When you have to put in your budget like hiring stunt actors and things like that, you're like, no, that shit ain't gonna work, bro. No, it all costs money.
What I mean, like the only vehicles we have access to is your fucking mom's Honda Civic, dude.
Yeah, like when the majority of your budget goes to renting vehicles and hiring stunt drivers and stuff, like, you know, you might want to cut that scene out and replace it with whatever the fuck they did in the effects in that movie, man. I don't like it superimpose like. Oh man, it's just fuck. Oh, it's so bad.
What one thing that we were talking about when you cut out last week that I kind of wanted to revisit for a quick second, if you don't mind. So me and Dave were talking about, and you probably literally might have missed this entire conversation that we had.
Probably, man. It was bad.
But we were talking about like Christmas horror movies, and because we do have an idea what we're doing for Christmas this year. For our Christmas show, since we did miss last year's Christmas show, but it's pretty fun. And I was talking to Dave because like I and you like watching Christmas movies during Christmas. Dave doesn't do stuff like that.
Yeah, he's difficult.
Yeah, he doesn't have to him it doesn't like make the season better to watch a bunch of Christmas horror movies, whereas like I love doing that.
Yeah, we like to embrace the seasons that we're living in. So if it's Halloween season, you watch some Halloween films. If it's Christmas, it's great. And that's really kind of the only thing. Like when it comes to Thanksgiving, I know people watch like certain Thanksgiving films, and a lot of people watch My Bloody Valentine
Blood Rage.
Yeah, they watch Blood Rage.
Yeah,
Valentine's Day they'll watch like My Bloody Valentine and things like that. But I think the major ones is Halloween and Christmas I kind of fully embrace. But I think that's, I think that's fun to do. It's celebrating those type of films. Like, I just don't feel right watching Christmas films during the summer months Where some people are like,
I know.
I can tell you why. I just got in, the brand new Blu-ray of Don't Open Till Christmas. I'm not saying it came out in the summer. It just came out. But if it did in the summer, people are like, I got to watch that right away. I'm like, fuck that, man. I'll save it till Christmas, man. Watch the transfer.
Once we get one snow, I could start watching snow movies and Christmas movies.
Right.
Like, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to push the 80s show back, because I was like, dude, I don't feel like watching The Shining and All a Good Night and Christmas Evil in fucking the summer. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. 1980 has a lot of Christmas horror films and kind of like New Year's related films and shit like that. So
yeah, and New Year's Evil, like I want to, like that was the perfect to watch on like New Year's or around it. So it worked out for me.
Well, I usually watch Christmas Evil like every Christmas day. Around that time, because it's like my favorite one. I love that movie. And, there's certain ones I like to watch right around that time, like Silent Night, Deadly Night. And there's, some other ones, Black Christmas and shit. But just watching. There's
some that are like, not Christmas, but like The Thing. I always want to watch it in like wintertime too. Yeah.
I mean, it's literally a freezing cold film,
Right.
It just screams winter. It's awesome. It's like that movie, oh, what's that one that's set on Christmas Eve? Oh shit, dude! Wind Chill. That one has
I've never seen that.
Oh, dude, that is a crazy. Like, it's literally set on Christmas. It doesn't really have a Christmas aesthetic to it, but it's set on Christmas Eve. The point is they're going back for Christmas. Anyways, it turns into this crazy supernatural, but it's like all set in the winter and it's super cold and they get stranded in the winter. Oh, it's fucking freezing film, man. It's actually a really cool film, man. It's really cool.
But what we were talking about when you were glitching through the Matrix is
Keanu Reeves.
We love, like, I love how it's Halloween, Italian Horror Month, and then Christmas all back to back to back, right?
Yeah,
it's like a month for each thing, and that's cool to me. Since there's not that many Thanksgiving horror films, so at least have Italian Horror Month.
If my memory, I don't know if it serves me correctly, because I might not have even heard anything, but did we decide anything about the Christmas show films? Did we come to a conclusion on what we're doing? Okay.
So we are going to cover one film that we watched and we're going to review last year.
Oh, that's right. Because for the people that don't remember, because I actually forgot about this too, we had a lot of complications around Christmas last year. We ended up not even recording the Christmas show, which was weird because we'd done one like every year.
Every single year since we started, it's the only thing we've done every single year.
I don't really remember exactly what happened, but like it's just like one of us or two of us couldn't record. Things kept happening. It's the busy time of the year. I think
all three of us had an issue like 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah, there was something going on. We're just like, the fuck.
So, because we started in November the first year. Our first episode started in what was posted like December 2nd or something.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a chance to do Halloween. We didn't invent Italian Horror Month yet. So we literally, our first thing we did was Christmas. And then we didn't do Halloween until the following year. So it literally was the only thing that we'd done every single year.
Mm-hmm.
Save the other ones for another time. We're going to do Elves, and then we're going to do Joe Begos' new movie, the Bloody Santa one or whatever it's called, just because it looks cool, and that comes out in a couple weeks. And then the third one, we're letting people vote on. So we each picked 2 films to represent as possible candidates. Moodz picked All Through the House and Red Christmas. I picked Puppet Master versus oh wait, never mind, that was a joke. I picked Alien Raiders and Silent Night from last year. Not the remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night.
No, this one is like the most depressing movie ever made, I swear.
Yeah. And then Dave picked what the hell did Dave pick? What the hell did Dave pick? Do you remember? Red Christmas, or did you pick that?
He picked The Leech, I think is one of them.
Oh, The Leech, yeah, because I don't know what that is.
Well, it's brand new. It's just coming out. It's being released, I think, right at the beginning of... I think Arrow's actually releasing the Blu-ray.
The Leech and Home for the Holidays. Which is kind of a weird pick. We've never really discussed that one, 1972 TV movie.
Yeah, I've seen it before. I've seen it a couple times, actually. Yeah. So yeah, it's one that needs to get a better, like it's one of those kind of weird films that has like a multi-pack release, and it doesn't really
I didn't even know that until you told me, because nobody, like, it never was, I never heard anybody mention that, but it's such a weird thing that movie's only release is in multi-packs.
I know. Okay, so those are the movies that we all picked, and those are up for vote.
Yeah.
And so what was up with the other three? So there's the new Joe Bagos film, and then there was Elves. Those
two are already locked in, and then the third film is voted on between the 6 that we picked.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, all right.
If I had to guess, I feel like yours are probably the favorite.
Which ones were mine again? I'd picked Red Christmas and
Red Christmas and All Through the House.
Yeah, and those are two films that I kind of watch every year too. Ever since Red Christmas came out, I thought it was actually really. It's generally not the type of aesthetic that I go for with Christmas films, because it's set in Australia and their Christmas is
There's like no snow.
Well, it's their summertime, right? It's summertime in December 25th is summertime. It's like midsummer for them too. It's like super hot. So it's kind of a weird it's a weird setting, but the premise of the film is interesting. It's got a lot of commentary.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
It's got a lot of commentary. Plus it's got Dee Wallace in it, which is fantastic, and it's a cool film. It's a cool film. And All Through the House I watch every year, because that shit is just like I love that movie, man. It's bad shit. Yeah, it's fun. And the Alien Raiders, I think is an underrated little gem, but I don't think anybody's seen it, really. Alien Raiders is a fun fucking movie, man. Who was I having this conversation with? I had a conversation with someone about Alien Raiders last year, and they said they fucking hated it. And I was like,
really?
What? Yeah, and I was like, what?
Fuck.
I don't remember who I was talking to, but I was like, whoa. I've like never heard anyone say that, because it's just a fun movie. Oh, actually, no, who was it? I don't remember who it was, but I was kind of taken back by that, but yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see which one goes. So, honestly, I'm always like, there has been a ton of Christmas related movies coming out. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, which I'm always down for. I don't think I'll ever like not. I'll never be burnt out on Christmas films.
There are a lot of like indie. I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. There are definitely a lot of low budget kind of indie films, but I mean, the ones that we pretty much mentioned are all kind of on the same playing field, though. Really, they're lower budget indie films that turned out to be really good and stuff too. So, but I've been seeing lots of people reviewing all these random Christmas movies, and I'm like, holy shit, dude, there's tons this year. So I don't know if they have physical releases or if they're just VODs or whatever, but whatever the case may be.
Well, there's also I saw that Santa Claus from '96 is getting a Blu-ray.
Oh, dude, that movie is so fucking bad.
Oh, I know. I watched it in '96, I believe.
Yeah, dude. Oh man, that one is.
Dude, I know.
Yeah, what is it? 1996, I think. Yeah, 96 or some shit like that.
I asked Dave. I said, what do you like more, or what do you think's better, or like more Halloween themed horror movies or Christmas themed horror movies?
What did he say?
Well, I was asking you, but he said Halloween.
Oh yeah, I would have guessed Halloween.
What about you?
Me, I personally like Christmas related horror films better, because it's kind of like, Christmas is supposed to be like that happy time of the year and stuff. Like Halloween's just kind of an expectancy, Like, I mean, I love Halloween.
That's a good point. A good point.
But yeah, there's this like happiness to it. But then you throw like, a killer Santa Claus in there. Like Silent Night, Deadly Night is unsettling for a reason. I think it works because of that reason, And but yeah, getting back to that Santa Claus movie from '96. You remember who directed that, right? I think it kind of cut out there for a second.
John Russo.
Yeah.
That's fucking actually crazy.
I know, it is fucking crazy, man. John Russo, of all people, directed this like insanely low budget, fucking pretty trashy movie, to be honest, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
that is actually crazy.
Yeah, what was the other one that he did Midnight. He did the sequel to Midnight also, because he directed, I believe was his first movie. I can't remember, but Midnight was released by, I think Severin ended up releasing the Blu-ray of Midnight. I don't know if you picked
Yeah,
that one
they
up.
did.
I know Arrow had released the Blu-ray or the DVD years ago, but yeah, he did. And then he did a sequel in the early 90s to that also, which was very strange. But that was kind of like not a prequel to Santa, but just, quality wise, very, very low budget shit. But yeah, John Russo, if you're not really familiar with the name, well, you probably should be if you're listening to this channel, but he wrote Night of the Living Dead. A lot of people should know that. I mean, Return of the Living Dead, he's a writer on that and shit. So anyways, that's what he's probably most famous for, being involved with. But yeah.
And I to go back to that also, I would pick Christmas as well. I think that would be an interesting topic to take, like, I don't know, 20 of each of the best from each thing, and sort of debate which style, which type of
which holiday horror, which stack of holiday horror films is actually the better stack. How literally how you take 20 Halloween based, you take 20 of I'm not going to use the word best because I hate that term because there's no fucking best, but just favorites of people. You take Halloween, you take fucking WNUF Halloween. There's a lot of these films. The Barn. Everyone's. Yeah. I'm the only one that loves The Barn so much. But anyways, you stack them up against Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Don't Open Till Christmas. Which it's kind of funny, man. I just saw a review of someone was talking about Don't Open Till Christmas. Yeah, I watched this movie years ago. It's the worst fucking Christmas movie I've ever seen. I was like, what the fuck? I'm yeah, okay. I don't understand that, man. It does have it had a lot of production problems, but that movie's fun as hell. I actually can't wait to check out the transfer on it, man, because I've been watching that movie year in, year out on that Mondo DVD, and I'm just like, fuck, it's about time we get a high def transfer of that shit. So, but yeah, that would be a fun show, man. You take I don't know how we figure it out. You take 20 Christmas films, 20 Halloween films. Maybe we just do a kind of vote, and the most popular ones will just stack up against each other and just kind of battle it off. But that would be that's kind of a cool premise. I mean, you really could only do with those two holidays because there's a lot of holiday based films like Easter and shit, but there's not enough. They're
nowhere near enough. For any of the other holidays, you cannot do that.
I'm actually quite surprised, and I've always been really surprised that there isn't more. And I've said this probably on the show before. I've always been shocked that there isn't more Valentine's Day horror films out there, because when you look at the slasher genre, it has to do with a lot of people fucking and, love situations and, shit like that. Well, look at Valentine's Day. What is it? It's about couples and love and shit like that. And you're kind of exploiting that with, a slasher and shit like that. I'm surprised there isn't more Valentine's Day based films. There's a lot of Easter ones, but there's so many shitty Killer Bunny movies. It's ridiculous. They kind of make them all the same. What's the other? There's Thanksgiving. Which again, there's not a lot. There's not a lot. There's Blood Rage. There's Thanksgiving 1 and 3.
Yeah, Thanksgiving.
There's a few random ones here and there, but man, there's a lot of holidays that are completely underutilized. So,
yeah, I agree, and I'm actually, would love to see more, other the holidays, actually utilized in not the cheesy low budget comedic way that they've pretty much been exclusively doing.
Speaking of that, are you gonna go see Violent Night? I know it's got a supernatural angle to it. I don't know. It's classified as an action horror, or not action horror. I think it's action whatever, drama. I don't even know, or crime. I think it's action crime, I think is what it's classified to be, but it totally has a supernatural angle to it that's kind of horror-ish, right?
Yeah, and I'm definitely going to see that. Yeah,
because I've seen a trailer.
Actually, Carly's mom wants to go see that with us.
Yeah, I like the guy that plays the killer Santa Claus in it. What's his fucking face? He's the dude from Stranger Things. I know he's probably most famous from that. I think he plays the sheriff in that.
Yeah,
whatever the fuck is, I always forget that guy's name, but I recognize him from. He's in a lot of stuff. He does a lot of TV work, to be honest. He does, but he's kind of likable. But yeah, it's got this weird supernatural angle to it. I've seen the trailer a couple times in the cinema, and I'm like, that shit looks okay. It would be fun to see at the cinema, I think. So, and it's got John Leguizamo in it, which is kind of cool. He's always likable.
I'm really looking forward to that. That should be perfect, fun, theatrical, just neat movie to see. That's probably going to be
Well,
mindless entertainment.
to be honest, you don't really get a lot of holiday themed films like that at the cinema. So, most of these holiday themed, kind of horror action, they seem to be a little bit more low budget or go straight to DVD or video or whatever, right? So we don't get those bigger screenings of them, this is kind of cool. That's why it shocked me that this is coming out. I'm like, oh, fucking nice.
Yep. I'll take what I can get, man.
Right.
But speaking of releases and things coming out, like, dude, I literally don't know. Like, I cannot keep up with all this stuff. Like, not the like theatrical stuff, but just like the things coming out on disc. Mm-hmm. Like, did you see? And I wanted to ask you what your thoughts on this are. So how like Vinegar Syndrome has the yearly package, right? Where it's like, $1,000 some dollars, and you get every release besides the VSA stuff all year long.
Yeah. And automatically. It comes with like 50% off all the sister company stuff.
Yeah, which is probably the most valuable aspect of that deal.
Yeah.
But so I've seen now other companies are starting to try this. Like, did you catch that TerrorVision is doing this now?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
So what do you think about that? You think that's is that something you would be interested in doing, or do you think that it's just
the way I look? I mean, I don't get the yearly packages through. I mean, I buy the packages every month, which you
buy the monthlies, which is what I do, which is actually more money. You're spending more money doing it that way, but at the same time, it seems like safer than dropping like a huge chunk of money at once.
Right.
So I just do the monthlies as well.
For me, honestly, I probably should do the yearly thing because I buy a lot of the sister company stuff, and getting 50% off those titles would probably end up saving me a shitload of money. But I'm weird like that. I'll just do it monthly kind of thing. Yeah. So when it comes to TerrorVision doing their own yearly package, TerrorVision is one of those companies that
theirs isn't a yearly package. It's a 10 release package.
Oh yeah. So the release package. So
10 at a time, basically.
And
you can do it any time of year. You don't have to do it right at the beginning of the year, like when they have this sale. You can literally sign up for it at any time and get the next 10 releases.
I think it comes down to the fact that, like, if I wanted to collect all the releases from TerrorVision, I would be down with that. But there is certain titles. I think they have like 6 releases right now. I actually have 4 of them, but there's a couple of titles that I'm not going to get. So I think if it was one of the sister labels that I was collecting all of them, like Saturn's Core, or there's a couple like the Fun City editions, and what else, the Agfa stuff. Like, I collect all those ones because I really like those lines. But that's kind of the deciding factor, is that I don't really want all the titles, so I'm not really willing to do that. So I think it comes down to personal preference. If you're willing, or collecting certain sister companies, which there's like 3 or 4 of them that I do, and I cherry pick other companies. There might be a title from Dark or whatever it is, Dark Age or whatever it is. I'll grab them. I'll grab that one. But I'm not like looking to getting a yearly package or a 10 movie deal. Because there's probably going to be some I just feel like I'm just kind of wasting money on. So I think it just comes down to personal preference.
These companies are doing this is because it gives them a cash flow up front to like then put into the titles and the production. I kind of see where they're coming from. Now with TerrorVision, I actually thought about doing it, but again, it's almost like the mystery is both a pro and a con, because like you're agreeing to buy 10 things, and the excitement of not knowing what you're going to get is kind of cool, but then also it could be kind of sucky if you get a bunch of shit you don't want. Right. Now, they did announce like 4 titles right when they announced this deal, so at least the next 4 titles you would get, which is Happy Hell Night from 1992 on 4K, actually. Linnea Quigley's Horror Workout. Attack of the Killer Refrigerator, which is fucking awful, and The Hook of Woodland Heights, which I've never seen. Yeah. And then Santa Claus. Those are the those are the 4 that, or I guess 5 that were announced. So you pretty much know the first 5 you would get if you did it right now. Which I think all those movies are interesting because they're not like Attack of the Killer Refrigerator wasn't on Blu-ray. Satan Claus wasn't on DVD.
It doesn't even have a DVD. I don't even think it has a DVD. Yeah. It's like still on VHS.
Yeah, it's on VHS. Yeah, you're right. Because I had to watch it for a Patreon review.
We also watched it for, I think it came out, 91, right? So I watched it again. I'd seen it before. I watched it for, I think it was 91 prep show.
It says 90 from Terrorvision, but it probably was 91.
It was 91.
It says
it says 91. I definitely did rewatch it, and I was like, oh my God, this movie is as bad as I remembered it to be. But, again, like you're watching these older, obscure VHS, stuck in VHS obscurity films on shitty full screen, fucking, pretty dippy fucking transfers and shit too. So sometimes they do elevate them a lot. I don't know how much it's going to work for Santa Claus because that movie is fucking terrible. But I mean, it is a pretty interesting lineup.
You're going to want it in your Christmas collection.
Yeah, and
even if it's terrible.
I do have the DVD, and the DVD is trash bags for that. It is actually so bad. Even the artwork isn't even cut properly. It's like really, really bad. Like the transfer sucks. The presentation sucks. Man, it's pretty fucking bad. So, but I will say though that these titles is a pretty interesting start to their 10 film lineup or whatever. So I don't know.
Yeah, I actually thought about doing it. It's like 225.
I mean, put it this way. The movies that they announced, those first 5 titles, are things that are a little bit more obscure and don't relatively have other Blu-ray releases. Like, what was the first one you said? Happy Hell Night from 92, which actually does have a Blu-ray. I think that one was released. I think Code Red put that out, or somebody put that out.
Well, this one's a 4K.
Yeah, obviously wasn't a 4K because this was years ago. But yeah, that movie's okay. But like, still, those type of titles for collectors they're enticing because we don't already have multiple releases for these, and most people probably don't even own these.
I would actually be okay with getting any of these 5 because I don't own any of them.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a pretty good lineup. Like I said, I think Terrorvision to this point had released 6 things. I have 4 of them. I know WNUF, I think it was one of them. I mean, they've released a couple things. They're the ones that released
Video Violence.
So I picked up that one. So I picked up a couple of these. There was
Killing Spree.
That was another one I grabbed. But there was 2 titles I didn't grab. So it is what it is. Cherry pick if you want to. Pick up the pack if you want the whole thing to save some money. But I mean, it's a good. I like these package deals, and I like that people are doing these things. I noticed that Mondo Macabro has been doing that. They'll announce like 3 or 4 titles at a time, and then they'll have you can buy the package. It's a limited package, but you can get all 4 titles in like kind of like a monthly thing. So that's cool. That's cool.
It's an interesting idea. I'm curious to see like if it continues going on. I guess the real important thing is like, do you get a I think it would be interesting if you had the option to skip a title and use and carry your title over to the next thing.
Almost like bank it. You know what I mean? Just like bank it.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay for this one, but say the December title is one I want. I'll pick that one up instead. I'll kind of change this. It could get a little bit confusing, but I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Like, I think that would make it interesting. And then I also seen that Vinegar Syndrome is gonna create a reward system, which I just think is crazy that they're doing that, because like there's literally people that buy every single Vinegar Syndrome.
I know, I was kind of
basically
pissed off at that.
Just giving them free shit, which is amazing, but for making money, it doesn't seem like you really needed to do that. But since these people are buying everything ananyway,
it's enticing for other people to. It basically is just incentive to buy things. It's like all the reward programs for fast food restaurants, right? Like you obtain points every time you buy a Big Mac, and all of a sudden you have like 20,000 points, and you go, oh, I have enough to get a free Big Mac meal, and then you go. But that's just enticing people because people want free shit. So. The thing that pisses me off about Vinegar Syndrome is that I've literally spent thousands and thousands. I don't even want to know how much I've spent because I have like way too much Vinegar Syndrome stuff. It's ridiculous. Probably 600-700. It's crazy. But at this point, I'm like, I could have had a lot of fucking points or free shit by now.
Free shit out the wazoo. Like even me, I could have had a lot of free shit. You know what I mean? Like, but hey. I guess better late than never. I'll take some free shit. At least, like I'm curious on it. I hope that it comes out during maybe after this Black Friday sale, I assume. Mm-hmm. And then I also wanted to ask you: did you see that thing that Full Moon's doing? That with the box set, the Legacy Collection.
I did. I didn't really look into it. I did see a posting on Instagram for it, but I didn't even check what it was. What was it?
So I don't know how they're going to do it, or if it's going to go through the whole way or what, but so basically Charles Band started this new thing where every week he does like a video update on YouTube, like called like, I don't know, it used to be called the vidcast, but it's called something else now.
Yeah, I remember.
But he
the
just
vidcast.
basically gives an update, like what's going on at full moon,
Right.
which I like because they're only like 5 minutes and you kind of get an idea what they're doing. Like they're Ted Nikolai right now is editing Subspecies 5, which would be a fun show to do. Subspecies films on here because I know you like them, I like them too.
Yep.
So he's editing that. He said they're going to be shooting 12 films next year, I think. And Slime Bowl and Baby-Rama 2 is done. That comes out in a couple weeks or something, or a month or two or something. He was just basically updating stuff, but they announced this new box set called the Full Moon Features the Legacy Collection. And what it is a box set that is starting from the beginning of like Charles Band's producing career and going through and releasing like 10 or so movies in each volume. And the first one is like The Last Foxtrot in Burbank is the first film Charles Band ever did. And it's the first time it's available on Blu-ray. And then Mansion of Doomed, Cinderella, End of the World, Auditions, also available for the first time on Blu-ray. Fairy Tale, Laser Blast, Crash, Tourist Trap, The Daytime Ended, and The Best of Sex and Violence, also available for the first time on Blu-ray. But so the idea is that every like couple months or half a year or even year, they'll release another volume and they'll go with the next 10 movies and so on. But the thing that I'm curious about is what happens when they get to the movies like Goalies or something that they don't have the rights to. Are they going to try to license them, or are they just skipping them? Because that's the thing. That,
are they just focusing on Charles Band produced films, or are they going to get to shit that he's actually directed too? Did they specify that?
Both. Like it's anything that he was like sort of involved with in a heavy scale.
Okay, so
because some of these he directed.
Yeah.
Crash he directed.
I wasn't. Oh yeah. Right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how. I mean, when it comes to rights, it's very complicated. We all know that. But then Charles Band has a little sneaky. He's sneaky with that shit though too sometimes.
Yeah,
so
he is.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I mean,
behind him on a board is like these mini posters that are like, I don't know, like 6-7 inches tall, and it has every film like chronologically, like behind him, like on a big board that has every film. And I just thought that was cool. If they actually do this, it would be sort of a neat thing.
Right.
And I picked it up.
I mean, I personally have no problem with doing this. I mean, especially releasing a lot of these older films that don't have, because I mean, a lot of the earlier DVD releases from Full Moon are, they're just full screen transfers and things like that. They're pretty shoddy DVDs and stuff, right? So if you're getting all these things on Blu-ray, nice restored transfer, like I have no problem with that whatsoever. And you are getting some things that haven't been released either. So yeah, it's kind of a cool concept, really. I mean, if you're willing to commit to buying these volumes, you're gonna drain your pockets quite a bit. But yeah, you'll be draining your pockets quite a bit. But over time, I mean, if he's gonna release them once every 6 months or once a year, I mean, it is what it is. But I like the idea. I mean,
yeah, I like the idea too, and I'm curious. Like, I kind of just was like, you know what, I'm gonna try it out. If it doesn't go as planned, that's fine. There's still like, I only own one of these movies on Blu-ray, maybe two. So I did pull the trigger and bought the set because I actually thought the price was pretty fair too. 10 movies, $120. That's
$12.
What, like $12 a movie?
Yeah, that's definitely reasonable. Definitely reasonable. Plus, like, what kind of case is it coming? Like, what kind of box set is it?
Actually, it's 11 movies, so
okay.
It's even less than. It's like 11.
Yeah.
50 or something in the movie.
I mean, if the box set is nice and stuff, I mean,
yeah, no, they showed the box set. It looks like it's a harder material than like some of their older box sets. They're all individual cases in there. They're signed and numbered by Charles Band, and it's limited to 2,000, and they're only making 100 at a time.
Oh, so they're limited to 2,000. Okay. Huh. Yeah. I mean,
so I figured $120 for literally 11 movies. I only own Tourist Trap on Blu-ray, and maybe I might own Laser Blast. And then that way I'm not kicking myself if like volume 2 has a bunch of cool shit that I want in it and I never picked up volume 1.
Right. Yeah,
it's honestly not a bad deal either. Like, it's one of the more friendly deals. And he even said, now who knows what Charles Band actually thinks, but what he says versus what's real is different.
Right.
But, I mean, he said, they really didn't want to price gouge on this one. It's more of like a celebration of the history of Full Moon, and they really wanted it to be super affordable. And I really think $120 is very affordable for a box set like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's very, it's a big idea. It's a very, very big idea. If he follows through with it, that'll be pretty cool. I mean, even if he only releases a few volumes, it's still kind of worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, but you got all that, like, moonbeam stuff.
Right.
Like, just all the different, things, and it's just kind of a cool idea, really.
I mean, for a lot of people, spending $120 on random shit is a lot easier to do than spending it all in one place. So it might hinder people from picking it up just based on the price point, even though you are getting a pretty decent value for what you're spending. For myself, I know these will be probably website exclusives. So for myself, it's not really worth it because, with conversion but the shipping is the biggest problem though. Like the shipping for Full Moon is like crazy to Canada. It's just nuts. So it really kind of dummies the price for myself. If it was cheaper to get them, any other way, then it would be worth it for myself. But I mean, for anybody that's close by and has decent shipping, it's definitely worth the price. But people know what I'm talking about. And I talk about it all the time about shipping, but it does ruin what you do buy sometimes. And, that's unfortunate, especially with bigger things, man. Like the ship. I can't even imagine what the shipping is on that. A big box set like that from Full Moon? Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I do know they do like the international shipping, but I'm not sure what the cost would be. I'm actually curious.
I think last time I looked,
oh wow, it's sold out.
Really?
Yeah. I assume the first 100 because they said they're releasing they're printing 100 at a time.
Yeah, it's trial runs. Yeah,
the first 100 is out already.
That makes sense though to do that because you don't want to print 2,000 up and then sell like 100 of them. That would just suck.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's showing. Like, I mean, this went up for pre-order like
it's marketing though, man.
2 days ago or something.
No, it's good.
I ended up getting a copy, but
it's good marketing because you press up 100 of those and they sell, and people see that on the website and they go, oh, they're sold out, they're coming back in. But then it's more incentive to people to jump on it again. Like, oh, they're going to keep selling out. They're going to keep selling out. It's just how people's collectors' minds work, I think.
Yeah, and I'm looking on Wikipedia right now at the list of productions from Charles Band, and literally these are actually the first 10 movies.
Yeah,
so the first 11, which is interesting. So the next ones would be Famous TNA 2, Parasite, Metal Storm, Film Gore, Walking the Edge, The Alchemist. That's where you're getting into Empire. The Dungeon Master, Ghost Warrior, and Trancers, and then Goalies. And
it's funny because some of those movies obviously have been released by Screen Factory, so maybe the rights have reverted back to for Full Moon to be able to release those. I'm saying because I'm pretty sure Screen Factory probably just basically rented the rights for so long until the rights ran out, and then they revert back. They were always Full Moon owned rights films, but they probably couldn't release them while they were in print from Screen Factory. You know how the rights thing work, right? They're basically renting it for like 5 years. Kind of thing, right? So I know a lot of those double features and stuff are out of print, so the rights must be not reverted, but Full Moon's able to release their back catalog, their Empire stuff, which I think he did acquire. He reacquired the rights because remember he lost the rights or something like that years ago, but then he obviously must have reacquired the ownership to them. So that's kind of cool that you're getting that Empire, especially Alchemy, because that's one that's been stuck in VHS obscurity. Really,
I'm hoping that they actually are going to continue and actually might have had release.
I'm not sure.
All of the titles, right? Because if they skip over the entire Empire era, it kind of a little bit to me defeats the purpose of this idea.
Well, you're getting into the Empire stuff very quick. If you're talking like volume 2 and they're already into the Empire stuff. So if you start skipping that shit, then you're skipping over probably one of the best eras of the Charles Band.
No, it is the best era.
I mean, I like when it went from Empire to Full Moon features or whatever it was, 89 to like 99. I like that era. I think Puppet Master might have been the first movie on the new label or whatever, but like 89 to 99, like the whole 90s vibe of Full Moon was actually really fun. And then as soon as it went to the new millennium, that's when shit just got really bad. Right? Like the budgets were shitty and the quality of films changed, man. Like it's just crazy. But I like the Full Moon, but the Empire stuff is, Terror Vision and shit like that. Like give me a break, dude. It's fucking amazing to me.
Yeah. So like, just look at it like this. Like let's say you do 11 in each box set, 11, 12, 10, somewhere around there. Like you literally have this chunk of like Full Moon era, right? Like let's say 89, right? Puppet Master, then Meridian, Kiss of the Beast, then Shadow Zone, Crash and Burn, Puppet Master 2, Doll Man, Pit and the Pendulum, Puppet Master 3, Subspecies, Trancers 2, Bad Channels, Demonic Toys. That's a little chunk right there, right? And then you go to the that's pretty much 89 to 91. Right. And then you go into 92 with Trancers 2 and Bad Channels, Demonic Toys, and you go literally 92 to 93 would be another 10. And it wouldn't even cover all of 93. Yeah, but it's just I kind of like the idea of doing it this way, but we'll see if it pans out. I jumped on board for the first one. We'll see if I continue. Mm-hmm.
No, I think it's a cool idea. It's Charles Band. It's very ambitious, just put it that way. But he always seems to change up his angle all the time, right? You got to be on top of the game, right?
10?
Right.
The Deadly 10, but that was more because of COVID.
Right.
Really. Yeah. It shut down everything on there. But what's the last like Full Moon movie you watched?
Oh, good question, man.
Like a new Full Moon movie, not like Puppet Master or something.
I actually don't know. I mean, honestly, it would probably, I guess related to Puppet Master, but it would probably be Blade.
Okay, that was a couple years ago.
Like the newest of the Full Moon produced films. Yeah, it would probably be Blade. I didn't watch like Ouija's or whatever the fuck that was, and there was some shit I just kind of passed on, but they pick up and they slow down with their films and stuff like that. So but I wanted to watch
it sounds
Blade.
Like they're picking up heavy next year.
Yeah.
They're saying
they go through waves, man. They'll produce like a ton of films and then all of a sudden they'll like really taper off and then they'll produce a few more. And did they just recently do another Oopsie Baby movie or something like that? Or like, fuck, they always come up with sequels to their shit.
The
like
spinoff.
Yeah,
the Baby Oopsie spinoff. And then I actually watched their new movie. It came out in this last year. Attack of the 50-Foot Cam Girl.
Oh yeah.
I just was on so they do the Full Moon streaming thing where all these Full Moon movies premiere. But they also have like stuff from Blue Underground and like it's just another streaming service. Yeah. But I always get it because they offer like a box set for signing up for a year. So you sign up for $50 and you get it for the year, and then they send you the Puppet Master box set. Or last year I did 10 free Blu-rays. Next year, whenever I re-up, you can get the entire Evil Bong box set with the 8 Blu-rays.
Yeah.
So I'll sign up for that. Because you get it free, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so I was just on there because none of my other streaming apps were freaking working. And I watched, I was like, let me see what new Full Moon's about. And I watched the Attack of the 50-Foot Cam Girl. And yeah, it's stupid, cheesy, fun, like stuff, but I actually found it kind of fun. And I thought it was actually like pretty well written with the jokes.
Right.
So I ended up actually really liking that movie.
And it probably was worth your time because it was probably only 63 minutes, right?
Yeah, it was, I think 70 minutes maybe.
That's typical Full Moon. I mean, they've always made shorter movies, but like they got into this era was like 70 minutes was like standard. Like 65 to 70 minutes like became standard for them, which is fine, you know, and like a lot of people always can bitch and complain like, I'm not checking out Full Moon, they're garbage. I'm like, man, it's totally like, it's not overstaying its welcome, man. You know, some of that shit's actually pretty fucking fun, so... but yeah, I get that. I'm not even 100% sure if it's even eligible for me being international, you know, because I'm fucking on the far side of the world here.
You mean the free offer?
Well, the streaming through Full Moon, because you know how streaming rights work and stuff, right? There's a lot of streaming sites.
Definitely, I'm pretty sure they have it in Canada.
Okay, so I'm wondering. Okay, so if they have the Full Moon, so if they specifically have it, then there's probably certain things that aren't able to be seen on the streaming. It's like Netflix and Shudder and stuff. Like our Shudder is different than American Shudder. Yeah. Netflix is different. There's always these. It's
different by a lot though, because it's like the stuff that they're getting is like usually like from Blue Underground. Like Bill Lustig owns all the rights to those movies.
But for myself though,
North America.
But for myself, like if I was to get the Full Moon streaming, I'd be getting it for the Full Moon movies, which would all be available because if they have the Full Moon streaming in Canada, all those movies are going to be available because they're Full Moon movies, right?
Yeah, and that's why Charles Band was pushing it next year. Like they now offer that Evil Bong box set, and he's like, sign up because we're releasing at least 10 movies next year, right? And it'll be worth it. Basically,
I actually have for somebody that periodically buys Full Moon, like here and there, it's like I actually have a really big Full Moon collection. It's crazy. Like I like
I like Full Moon,
the Empire,
even to this day.
Like the '90s stuff, I really try to have all that stuff, and I cherry pick the stuff in the 2000s, but most of the '90s stuff I pretty much own, like almost every stupid fucking movie, But it's fun. It's cool to have better releases of them. So, and that was one thing, like when they started releasing their back catalog, like their 90s films on Blu-ray, it became worth the upgrade because they weren't the full screen transfers, that we were getting on the DVD. So I always felt like the Full Moon stuff when you were upgrading was not expensive, but it was worth it because you were getting them in anamorphic widescreen and you were getting the better transfers and stuff, which I was a little bit worried about at first because everyone's like, well, it's Full Moon, they're going to be shit transfers, but they turned out to be pretty good and worth your time. So. Yeah. So, I mean, it's one thing we've talked about Charles Band on this channel or on this show for years and years and years. But, we've talked about the good and the bad stuff with Charles Band. Like he can do some pretty shady shit, but, you got to give it to him because he's constantly progressing and he's always on top of shit. And he's always he's making deals with the fans. He really is. This is making deals with the fans. He's enticing people to buy bigger things and he's doing it properly. And I respect that vantage point of his business game because it does make sense. I mean, you don't have a business not to make money and why not keep putting your shit out there? Like that's one thing he's been criticized for over the years is reissuing things constantly. But you can't complain if you're fucking buying them, right? If you're buying the shit, why fucking complain? I mean, I have no problem. If he was reissuing the same DVDs and all, I'd be like, okay, whatever. But it doesn't matter. You can't complain if you don't have to buy the shit. But he is progressing. He's putting shit out in better forms and in bigger box sets and more enticing things, especially for the collectors. And, again, he's recognizing that the collectability of these boutique labels and things like that is so high right now. Like people are squabbling this shit up like it's fucking the last meal you're ever going to have kind of thing, right? Like you look at Vinegar Syndrome, the sister labels are selling like crazy right now, man. Like if you go on the website and you click on something, it shows you how many copies are left. Like these things are selling like way more than I thought they would be. Some of these like really obscure titles from like Saturn's Core and and all these things. I'm like, fuck, it's blowing my mind. So
my copy of Amityville Curse, the slipcover sold out before during a pre-order. Dude,
even the standard edition sold. I actually never even got it. I never even passed
did it
on
really?
it.
The standard edition sold out too?
I was on the website 2 days ago and I was kind of clicking around on the sister stuff. I just wanted to see what was up for pre-order for Black Friday because there's like 3 titles I want to grab because I collect them. And I noticed that that one was sold out. I was like, holy fuck, crazy. And that's actually released on the Canadian International Pictures, which I haven't bought any titles from them yet. So, but I was shocked. So they sold a couple thousand of those and it's kind of mind blowing, but that goes to prove my point. That's just proving my point, though, man. Like even these like Vinegar Syndrome sells well, but their sister companies are fucking banking too right now, man. They're making.
I literally think Vinegar Syndrome is the most successful in terms of like bankroll out of anybody right now. Like I might even say maybe not Scream Factory because they have like
Shout Factory,
the mainstream. Shout Factory. They're in like Walmart and stuff like that. But besides that, I literally I think Vinegar Syndrome is making a absolute killing.
Yeah, I mean, Vinegar Syndrome is like really, really just kind of taken over by storm. I mean, I love Arrow and things like that, but Arrow's so hit and miss with me. Like, there's a lot of stuff they release I just pass on. I really do pass on.
Doesn't it feel like Arrow kind of fell off a bit?
Well,
like,
Arrow started
when they first came out in the U.S., like when they transitioned to the U.S. too. Yeah. They came out like hot and heavy, and I just feel like nobody ever mentions Arrow releases anymore.
The problem is with Arrow right now is that they're in that re-releasing game right now, where that last like year and a half they do release unique titles and stuff, but for the most part, the things that people are talking about, they're releasing this Argento film on 4K. They've re-released everything on 4K. So 4K is the big thing. So a lot of these companies are just taking their catalogs and putting out 4K versions. Like Scream Factory, I haven't bought a title in like 6 months because everything has been fucking just 4K releases of their back catalog, and I'm like, well, I just don't need this one on 4K. I just don't want this one on 4K. So they're not releasing anything unique, which is really a bummer, right? Because, there was a time where they were releasing so many unique films, and now they're just like, well, the 4K game is what everybody wants right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take Return of the Living Dead. We're going to take The Howling. We're going to take this title, that title. Alligator was unique as a 4K, but that's not my point. Most of the titles that they've been releasing in the last 6 months, 8 months, even all 2022 have pretty much been in the 4K game. And if you're not even up on that or don't really care, it's just they're passing me right by. Straight Far Side, straight passing me by. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's boring to me because I want more unique titles. That's what I'm always in the game for. That's why companies like Mondo Macabro and Vinegar Syndrome are so unique in themselves, because they're constantly releasing things, and in Severin that haven't been released and that we're looking for as collectors and, just as film lovers,
Yeah, the one thing that's concerning to me is slightly about Vinegar Syndrome right now, though, is like some of the stuff they're starting to release is like I'm like uninterested in. Like,
well, you can say you're just scraping the bottom of the
House.
Well, oh man, you know what? That's one of those weird titles that people like the movies, respect it, but did we need like a $50 4K deluxe edition of fucking Swayze's ass?
Yeah, well, the thing is too that it's coming under that VHU line, which is my favorite like releasing style that they've done, and like it's just like, dude, save that for something cooler.
I like the VSAs, man. I like the VSAs, man, because that line is like it's got like all these crazy cheesy 90s action films mixing with like horror films and like all these obscure
VSAs too,
dude, that line is so cool. I miss
so many of them.
Like we're getting Dawn the Wilson Dragon movies and like all these fucking Billy Blank, like it's just so fucking insane the shit that they're releasing. Like I would have never in my wildest dreams ever expected those movies to even get like legit Blu-ray releases, let alone a fucking special line within a fucking releasing company.
Yeah,
it's just blowing my mind what they're doing with those releases. Like it's just such a fun line because you never know what's coming in the next month, and when it gets announced, I'm like, really? That's amazing. It's like, and Mondo Macabro does it though too. Like look at their latest box set they just announced, the Bollywood box set with like 5-6 movies.
That set is so cool. Like,
dude,
it's just a curiosity.
Mondo doesn't get enough credit for what they do because they are legitimately one of the most unique companies, because almost everything that they release is unique. Right. And it's from around the world. You're getting all these crazy movies and shit like that. And they're totally affordable. That's one thing about Mondo that blows my mind, is that you're not spending the $35, $40 like you are on an Arrow release or a fucking Criterion or some shit. Like these are like $20 Blu-rays, and unique titles. And I never feel like I'm just upgrading a Mondo unless I had the DVD before, which is kind of cool that they're releasing some of their back catalog now too. But again, that's not really the point. A little bit, because some of their titles were long out of print and stuff, but we're getting so much unique stuff. It's just, but again, I know what you're saying. It's hard to keep up. Like I collect, 88 film stuff, and which is kind of cool because they got the Cat 3 label over there, which is really cool. And they got all the, the Jackie Chan films, and they're very unique in their style too. But at the end of the day, man, you almost need like a second, third, fourth job, to afford all this shit. In a sense, I'm actually kind of happy that Scream Factory kind of just went to the 4Ks, because I'm like, okay, well, I can concentrate on other companies because they're doing big things too, so.
Yeah, I mean, but like, I'm just concerned that Vinegar Syndrome is going to step away from their like more unknown stuff and focus more on these like showgirls. Like, do we really need showgirls on some crazy addition from Vinegar Syndrome.
Did they announce that?
No, but it's kind of known in the underground that that's coming.
Is it coming, or is it one of the secret titles that's part of the Black Friday package?
I don't think it's a secret title for this batch, but it's coming to 4K from what I understand. The same person that told me about this one, the Roadhouse, also said that Showgirls was next.
Oh, well, so it's definitely coming then, because I'm pretty sure I know who that person is. But,
yeah, and they like, I don't know, I'm a little weirded out by some of these titles that they're,
at the same time, okay, I mean, okay, so everyone has a different perspective on what cult films are. When you really break it down, there's like obscurity cults, there's like, there's different steps of cult films. No matter how you look at it, like Roadhouse kind of is too, but not to the, like, Showgirls turned into that kind of like oddball cult film, but it's just not an obscure cult film. People know about Showgirls and have always known about it. I think that's kind of why it's kind of like an oddball title. You know what I mean? I actually don't really care for Showgirls that much, to be honest. I haven't seen it in years.
I've never even seen it. I just something about the...
Yeah, no, it is weird. I get that. Like, I still get it. Like, these are still cult type films and shit like that. People kind of, like I said, get it twisted a little bit. Like, even like John Hughes movies are straight up, like, they're popular, but they became like these cult phenomenon films, cultural phenomenon films and shit like that. But different stages of cults. But I don't know, man. Showgirls, to me, is a title that I'm not screaming I need to pick up. It's just not. So.
Right. And something I'm actually... So, do you remember that one year they released that? I never even watched the movies in it, but it's like some sort of like Mexican or something box. It's like a tiny box set. It's like kind of thinner. You remember that? Mm-hmm. Like, started with a C or something.
Yeah, it was like the Cardano set or something like that.
Yeah, Cardano set.
Yeah.
They said that was like the first volume of that. I think it even says volume 1 on it.
It does. Yeah.
And that hasn't, maybe it didn't sell well or something, because I'm not seeing, like, they haven't released another one.
No.
I believe someone told me that there's a magnet inside that box set that's supposed to connect it to another box set or something. So
I actually can't remember. I would have to go grab it. I think there is. I think you're right. I actually haven't I've seen one of the films in the set, but I haven't actually dug into that one yet. That's one of the ones I haven't really got to.
Yeah.
So,
I'm curious what the two surprise titles are this time.
Yeah,
with Vinegar Syndrome's Black Friday thing. Obviously, I'm excited for the Homegrown Horrors Volume 2.
I know, that's awesome.
But the two surprise titles, the rumor is Psycho Cop is one of them.
Oh, that would be fucking awesome, because they already did the sequel, right? So, yeah.
Right, Psycho Cop 2. Yeah.
And I have a shitty fucking Australian DVD of the first one. It's like full screen VHS transfer. So that'd be nice.
Plus they're announcing the next two. There's two new VSAs that will be available to order as well.
Yeah, which I'll have to jump on those because I have the whole line. But yeah, I'm always excited for those because, like I said, it's just it's such a the realm of possibilities is so vastly wide on that you're like, you see the title, you're just like, oh yeah, totally, I would have never guessed that. I love that about that line, man. It's just crazy. Is it Billy Blanks? Is it more? I have a feeling that at least one of the titles is going to be another Don the Dragon Wilson film for sure. I think that they're on this kick where, they did a bunch of like Billy Blanks films and shit like that, and now it's going to be Don the Wilson Dragon, which is totally fucking cool because I used to watch all these movies back in the day, right? So yeah, they were just cheapy fucking straight to video films that were always fun. I mean, Billy Blanks, he was the fucking bow tie guy, or the bow flex, or bow, whatever the fuck. Whatever.
Bow flex.
Yeah, the bow tie, was it bow tie? The fighting?
Are you talking about the exercise machine? The bow flex?
No, not the bow tie. Like the guy, Billy Blanks. He did the style of fighting exercising that he did.
Oh, okay.
The bow tie, whatever it was. Yeah, he's that dude. I always remember.
I actually haven't dipped into many of those yet. I think I have about like 10 or 15 of them. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I missed the first like 10 of them.
Yeah, those
I think the first one I picked up was like number 12 or something. and they go out of print really fast. I wish they would do like another slim release of those, just because like I feel like not a lot of people really were grabbing them at first.
Yeah, that line sells well because they range from anywhere from like 3,000 to like 6,000 available copies, and they're all hand numbered too, which is really cool. So when those ones are like 5,000-6,000, limited edition are selling out, that's how many they sold. That's crazy. Like, you got to think, like, that line's doing very well, man. Like, very well.
Yeah, I think that the first couple though were like less than that.
I would have to look. I know. I think you're right. I think the first few were like 3 to 4. So they were, they've gone as high as like 6,000 for maybe a couple of them, but most of them like 4 to 5.
If you actually do the math, right? If there's not the same amount for everyone, and then everybody couldn't possibly have the chance to collect the whole line, right?
Exactly.
Because if one's 3,000 and one's 5,000, it's like there's 2,000 people that missed out on that.
Right. That's exactly true. I know I've been pretty fortunate because I think what happened was the very first one that they released, which I can't even remember what it is right now. I was so intrigued by it. I was like, oh, I got to do this. And then I saw the packaging. I was like, oh, this is awesome. And like, yeah, this is a brand new line. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then it started just getting so mind-blowingly odd that I couldn't stop with the line. Like, this is the greatest shit ever. So it makes collecting exciting when you just really don't know what's coming. So, but unlike Scream Factory, like I said, it's like, I know in the next few months, it's just re-releases of back catalog into 4K format. So, I mean, if you're into that and you're into wanting to collect all these 4Ks, it's probably right up your alley. But a lot of these films, I just feel like I don't need, the Blu-rays are fine for me. I picked up a couple of them.
Dave just posted that I was supposed to go to his house for this Christmas party, and he said that he posted on Facebook that it might not happen now. This kind of sucks.
What, you were going to go to? Oh,
I was looking
because you're.
Yeah, I was going to go. Me and Carly were going to go hang out with Dave again because he's pretty close to us. He's only a couple hours away.
Yeah. I figured it was only a couple hours away. Yeah,
but we'll see. But I liked it. It's really weird. Like, you realize, like, when you only live like a couple hours away from someone, it's like really actually easy to go see them when it's only a couple hours. Well,
see, where you guys live to me is just normal driving. See, like, a couple hours away is just normal. Like, it's a couple hours to every fucking city, right? So, like, you're driving in the abyss until you get somewhere. Where when you're driving over there, it's like you're kind of always somewhere. Where I guess it's just kind of a different driving. But yeah, everything over in the east to the Midwest and stuff like that is all close together. Where out here, California, all these, everything's so far apart. So we always have to drive like hours. So, and we're just so used to, like, people are like, oh, you drive 8 hours to Vancouver. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Do it all the time. Right? Like, 8 hours for you guys is like mind blowing. Like, that's halfway across the country kind of thing. So, but yeah, a couple hours away, man. It is what it is. So when was he supposed to be having the party?
I think it was like December 10th or something.
So right away.
Me and Carly were going to go hang out. As long as the weather wasn't too bad. You never know with December. But, so I don't know. Maybe we'll try to meet up another time.
You guys should just take a flight over here.
Right,
I just flew over there, man. I just flew over there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, Christmas coming soon, man. Yeah, actually, we got our Christmas party coming up. Well, December 3rd, actually, we'll be doing it. So I guess, what is it, 2 weeks from now? Oh, yeah, it's only the 21st. Never mind. I'm getting all the dates all fucked up. So it's like 2 weeks away. But we're getting into that season. I got my tree up, into the festiveness of it. So I like the year. I like the holiday season. So we like to extend it. Are you guys already in the full-blown Christmas mode, too? Or what?
Oh, yeah, pretty much. I mean, dude, I'm not even joking. Halloween wasn't even over yet, and there was Christmas shit going up everywhere.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's kind of funny here, too, man, because, like, you go to Costco, and they have Christmas stuff up in fucking June. I'm like, man, Halloween's, like, in 2 months. What the fuck is going on here? Everything is so early. It's crazy. So I got to make a rule, like, I really don't have anything Christmas going until Halloween passes. So.
Yep, that's how it is for me too. Like once Halloween's over, pretty much like I give myself the okay to get into like Christmas movies and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear that, man. I hear that. All right, well, should we? Wow, this has been a really long intro. Holy shit!
Yeah, has it? I didn't even know.
I just looked right now, and it's. I mean, we're like over an hour 20 at least. Damn. Okay, so yeah, that's. I don't know. Do you have anything else?
No, that's pretty much it. You know, let's get into these Italian flicks.
All right, sounds good. All right, so that's going to conclude the intro, and we'll be back with you shortly with some Lenzi films. Yeah. Yo, who this?
Yo, Moodz, it's your boy, the ill-mannered funky child, calling you to remind you that the featured reviews on this episode contain spoilers.
Aw, yeah, man, that's right, brother. Thanks for the heads up, playa. Now go back to being an unproductive asshole.
Fuck you. Now tell your listeners to stop being so dumb, silly, sensitive.
Yeah.
And now, our feature presentation.
All right, so getting into the featured reviews here on episode 230, Umberto Lenzi Dux. Yeah, right here on Italian Horror Month, Volume 9. I think it's 9. 8. Yeah, we'll safely say 8. Yeah, that's that's definitely probably correct. All right, so we mentioned the films off the top of the show, and this first one is a film from 1972, a year that we've actually covered and done an entire top 10 list for. And this one is called 7 Bloodstained Orchids. And like I said off the top of the show, I can't fully remember if we discussed this in any great detail. I know it's been definitely brought up on the show, on multiple shows actually, but we've never done a full-length feature review and stuff like that. So, but yeah, this is a giallo from Umberto Lenzi from 1972. Now, he wasn't overly new to the giallo / thriller type film at this point. 1972, you know, he'd done a few films with Carol Baker before this one and after and stuff. So he's actually made quite a few giallo-esque. Like his movies they're either straight giallo or they're kind of more thrillers and things like that. Like Oasis of Fear, I wouldn't really count as a giallo. It's more of like a thriller. That's a really cool one from, I believe, 1971, I think the year before. But if you never got a chance, I don't know, JP, if you picked up that Umberto Lenzi, Carol Baker set from Severin.
I did not pick that up.
Okay, so it's got like Paranoia in there. It's got So Sweet, So for Purse, A Quiet Place to Kill, and I believe Knife of Ice in there. Those are all the films he did with Carol Baker. All really good films. You know, and of course he did Spasmo, and he did, you know, the next one that we did, Eyeball, and Oasis of Fear. Like all these movies are kind of in the same realm. So he's like very familiar with this type of genre, which is very cool. So 1972's 7 Bloodstained Orchids, which is, you know, just a great title for giallo, right? Come on, that's just the epitome of giallo title right there. So
yeah, that is a good title.
It is, yeah. All right, so quick synopsis: a woman, a survivor of a failed murder attempt by a person dubbed the Half Moon Killer by the police, and her husband must find the connecting thread between herself, 6 other women, and the killer before the killer strikes at her again. That's kind of a oddly written synopsis, but it does sum it up decently in a couple lines. 7 Bloodstained Orchids. So what is your thoughts? I know you've seen this movie before. You've seen this one a couple times, haven't you? I watched
this. Yeah, this is my third watch. I actually reviewed this when we did Giallo Week on Body Bags back in the day. And yeah. So just this, I mentioned this on the pre-recording that we did last time. So this title was released by Code Red or Scorpion, I believe.
Yeah.
And it went out of print, so I couldn't get a copy of it. I never picked it up. I don't know why I never did. But I never picked it up, so I had to rent it on Amazon in fucking standard def, dude. Standard def.
You know what's funny when I hear people, like when I hear this story, you know, about how you missed out on the Blu-ray, and you know, and then it goes out of print, and then you had to watch it on standard. I'm like, shit, dude. I'm sitting over here going, Well, I have 2 copies on Blu-ray. Like, fuck me, right? Like, I have that one, and I have the Italian collection from 88 Films. I'm like, this poor guy's watching standard fucking
Dude, I didn't realize it was standard def. I'm like, why the hell is this rentable in standard def when there's multiple HD prints out in the world?
Well,
this is
odd.
ridiculous.
That is odd, actually. Like, why? Like, you think it would just be standard to have the HD print?
Yeah. So it looked like ass. It was not even a good standard def. It was like worse than normal.
Oh, that sucks.
Which annoyed the hell out of me.
Right.
And I was just annoyed. But so yeah, this movie, you're probably going to have to help me a little bit this week, because watching these movies 2 weeks ago at this point, like, my memory is just shit at this point, especially when I start watching other stuff. But
right.
Yeah, no, this is I love it. The first one of the first kills in the film with the naked girl, like, in the bushes, basically, and she gets like bludgeoned to death. Right. That it's kind of in like a little slow-mo-ish, it looks like. That's a pretty cool kill. It's like right at the beginning there's like kill, then it slows down a bit.
Yeah, so basically in the beginning of the film we get introduced to, well, we don't get introduced to the killer, but we get introduced to a bunch of kills, and then we get a reasoning kind of behind it. So basically the film starts out with this POV killer that knocks off, I believe, 3 women before our main character gets attacked on a train. And what happens is, so this killer kills off these 3 women, and it's all random. To us, it's random at this point. We don't know what is going on. We just know that this killer's attacking women. He'll call them, hang up when they ask for their identity, and then all of a sudden he'll track them down and kill them and stuff like that. It's very typical Giallo type stuff. And then what happens is our main, our lead here, I don't know how to pronounce her name. What is it? Gulia? Is it Gulia? Is how they pronounce the name in the film? Anyways, what happens with our lead character here is that she gets attacked on a train, and what happens is the killer thinks that he's killed her, and so they play off that point, and they stage a fake funeral for her, of course, because she survives the killing, and then she and her boyfriend, they take it upon themselves to investigate what the fuck is going on with why she was attacked, because she has no idea why she was even attacked at all. And so
that's actually a pretty smart thing that I don't think I've seen before, where they basically stage the funeral and be like, yep, he killed her, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
that's actually a pretty good idea to escape a killer.
Right. And they use it too, because a lot of times they kind of point at the aspect that the killers a lot of times will show up at funerals and things like that. So they stage this funeral hoping that maybe they recognize somebody that isn't there, kind of thing and stuff. But I do like this premise because it is played off that she is actually dead. She's fully dead. So they investigate this thing, which leads them to, and there is a little bit of kind of, I don't really know what the word is for it, but how our lead character can't remember faces very well. Convenience in the narrative a little bit too, right? So they kind of play off that, because they keep asking her, they're like, well, what the fuck? You don't recognize the killer, can't remember the face and stuff like that. Why'd you get attacked? So one thing leads to another, and
which is almost silly in a way, because to thwart that, all you have to do is have the person either get attacked from behind, or the person's wearing a mask or something. It's almost unnecessarily plot convenience when you could have just written it out.
But the point is, from the thing is with Giallo films is that we're seeing the killings from a point of view, the POV killer. So if he was attacking her from the back, it doesn't have that same effect visually, right? Because you want to see the victim's eyes, because that's all we're seeing from the POV killer is the victim's eyes. Right. So it holds that it holds so much more horror, and it holds so much more girth to the story, that you would see that person, and that's how we get to see the terror in their face and stuff like that. So, but I do like the way this one develops. So once they start to kind of figure out so they start to investigate this, because in these giallos the police aren't really the biggest help, so they're going to take it upon themselves. And then one thing leads to another. She sees the names of the other victims, and this is kind of what starts her investigation which leads her to the hotel. So she sees the other victims' names, and she kind of recognizes them a little bit, and she's like, I know these names. And
so you're getting the idea that they're connected somehow through this like hotel that she used to work at.
Because that, the cops come up with the brilliant thing like, oh, well, all these girls are being murdered, kind of similar ways and stuff. They must be connected. And you're like, well, they must be connected because they're happening all around the same time, very mysterious and things like that. So what happens is they investigate. The names lead them to this hotel where they were staying at. And that's the common ground with all these names, is that all these people that were being murdered were staying at this hotel at the same time she was. So between like whatever it was, like November 29th and 27th, there's a certain time period. So what they do is they go into the hotel logs to find out the other names of potential victims and figure out potentially who else is going to be, victimized and murdered or whatever and stuff like that. And I really like that whole angle though, because they really get into it. Of course, the page is torn out of the logbook. And, a lot of the things that are happening in the narrative actually completely make sense because this is reality though, too, right? Like, at a hotel, you work at a hotel, that there's a logbook and stuff and these names are going to be in there and things like that. So all these things actually kind of make sense to how they investigate and how they figure out who potentially is going to be the next victims and things like that. It actually is pretty, like the pacing in the movie is pretty cool because we do get a bunch of killings at the beginning. Then we get this pretty much interesting investigation and how things kind of unravel themselves and which leads into the third act. And I've got to say though, like, without giving the whole movie away, like the kills are pretty good in this movie, and it does really have that slasher-esque feel to it, doesn't it? Like a lot of giallos, a little bit
more than you get in some giallos, because there's like really ones that borderline way more on like the thriller aspect, and then some more border on the slasher aspect.
Right. And there's ones that, they'll have a killing and then it's more of a police investigation or someone's investigating the murder, but that's all it is. There's one. This movie actually has a full-blown body count, right? There's like
and
7 or 8
ties to the narrative of like the 7 blood-stained orchids in the title, which is cool. I like that. Yeah. And even the killer has like a calling card with the half moon pendant or whatever.
Yeah, and, it's very typical giallo fashion, as we're exploring the narrative and as they're investigating things like, our main character, her boyfriend has, a half moon on his keychain, of course, which is a major, major red herring. There's so much red fish in this, in every giallo, right? There's so much misleading things in giallos, which is the fun of watching giallos because you're like, quite obviously it's not the boyfriend because why? Like, it's just too fucking obvious, right? But it's of course it's filled with the red herrings. But that's one thing I really always enjoyed about this movie. 1972, there's a lot of giallos that weren't done like this. They didn't have full-blown body counts. They didn't have these really kind of violent, brutal deaths like over and over again. Maybe in like an Argento film, you get 1 or 2 kills that are really violent. But this one has like 7 or 8 like kills in it. It's actually pretty crazy.
There's actually like quite a hefty amount of plot in this film too, considering like some don't have as much plot. Yeah. Like there's a lot going on. A lot of red herrings, and
I really like. This is actually like I really like this giallo, and I've always really liked the narrative and how it plays itself out. But I will say the reveal in this movie is so highly laugh-inducing to why the killer is killing off all these specific women. It's actually really fucking funny because in reality, it would be just so much easier to figure out exactly one person. Take the time to figure out who exactly did what they did. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just going through an entire, fucking flock of people trying to get the right one. It's the funniest fucking narrative ever. Because it just seems like it's a lot of work to track down so many different people and, kill so many people when you're after one specific fucking, target or there's one reason. And, but, at least in this one, the narrative where it all goes to is kind of funny. It's kind of ridiculous, but at the same time, it completely makes sense who is doing the killing. It's not completely out of left field because it's relative to what had happened in the narrative. But yeah, you're right. There is a lot of plot in this one, but it's never boring. This is not a boring, it's not, see, the thing is a lot of the more procedural giallos, like where they really focus on the police and, all the dumb things that the police do and things like that. I feel like this one is just a little bit more focused on being smart about the narrative too, right? I mean, it has all those cliches and things like that in there, but I think it does a good good job of not overstaying its welcome though too, because that's another thing with giallo films. Sometimes you'll get some down parts and it just keeps going and going and going, because they'll show you a lot of things that are just misleading. Like we'll get into that in Eyeball too. I feel like there's a lot of elements in the narrative in Eyeball that are just, it's purposely misleading you. This is very typical in giallos, but that one just really focuses so heavily on misleading that it's like ridiculous, where I feel like this one doesn't. This one has a focus, and everything kind of unravels and makes sense. It really does. So I don't know. This is a good film, man. It's got a good score to it. It's shot well. I think the kills are violent and brutal, and I like that, man. It keeps you intrigued, because like the title tells you 7, so there's probably going to be around that many kills, which is actually really inviting. It's pretty cool. So
yeah, the whole like reveal of like who the killer is and stuff like that is just like hilarious to me.
It's not who the killer is. The killer makes complete sense. It's why he's killing everybody. Yeah. And even to make things even funnier, he ends up he's already killing a bunch of people that really don't have anything to do with why he's doing it. But he ends up
the stage suicide and shit. It's like
that one. I mean, that does make a little bit of sense, because you want to throw a curveball to the police and maybe kind of throw them off your track by killing someone else that was already potentially a suspect, or could have been, whatever. So maybe this guy was so under pressure that he killed himself. It does actually kind of make sense. Again, going back to the narrative, it is kind of smart in a sense. But the fact that I love this one little curveball they throw in the film with one of the characters has a twin sister who ultimately meets her death. Yeah, it's like, oh my god, dude! This movie is actually kind of mean spirited in the sense that most of the people in this film that die have fucking nothing to do with any. They're so innocent. They're innocent, and that's why I feel like.
Well, even the idea is that the reason that he's killing these people is because he doesn't know which one he's supposed to be killing. So it's like, well, I'll just kill them all.
But that was my point. It's like, so you're this person that's devising this plan to kill everyone on this list, which is there's 7 potential victims that did something. Would it not be easier just to maybe investigate yourself and figure it out and just take out one person instead of wasting so much time and energy on killing so many people? It is really funny to me. It's such a funny reveal. It's ridiculous, but Riz Ortolani does the score in this film too, which is fantastic. It's really good stuff. This is one of the more kind of oddball giallos that is just the body count. I don't know what. It's something I'd actually like to figure out sometime, is look into giallos and kind of rank the highest body count giallos out there. This has got to be one of them. Really, even in Argento's films, you think about it, the body counts aren't generally that huge, right?
No.
Right? This one has a lot of kills. It's insane. It's insane to me.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea to figure out what the highest giallo body count is.
And that's what I mean. When you watch slasher films, there can be a lot of mindless slashers where there's literally a killer in the bush and he's just taking out everybody that's around. So,
well, slashers are definitely known for body count, whereas giallos typically aren't. So when you get a high body count, usually 5 is probably what you're usually getting, or less.
Right.
With in this film, you get 3, right? In the opening, you know?
and then you get a 4th potential victim who actually survives it. It's 4 in a matter of 15 minutes. It's crazy. It's ridiculous how quick it goes. And you think that the pacing would be put off with that, but it actually doesn't really affect it a whole lot. It does slow down a little bit because you have to get into some narrative. You got to get into some red herrings, and you got to get into all this kind of progressive plot and stuff like that. But there's one really mean-spirited part in this film, which I never really made sense to me. After you watch the film, you're like, okay, I understand why the killer's doing what he's doing and why he's killing these people, but why did he kill the cats?
Oh, dude, yeah, and the whole cat thing is I'm glad you brought
so
that up,
mean-spirited.
It's not only did it's not like he just like snapped their neck or something, like he poisons them, and then you're wondering, was this how he was going to kill the woman? Like because it was milk, right?
Yeah,
they poisoned the milk, and she gave the milk to the cats. So she's like, all these cats are dying in front of her, and you're like, what the fuck is going on here?
I know, like maybe that's what he was trying to do with the milk, but it didn't seem like it though. Right?
Or was it just like a sick diversion like type thing, or was it intent? Like I was wondering, like what was the motive behind the cat deaths? Was it purely coincidental, or was it intentional?
I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess it would have been purely coincidental if he was trying to kill her with the milk, but I don't think it was played out that he was trying to kill her with the milk, though. It seemed like he killed the cats because maybe he was like afraid of cats, or they were going to go tell on him or something. I don't know. It just seemed it's odd. It's very odd how it's done, but yeah,
I'm glad it's in there because it's just something different.
Yeah, but like I said, though, like this movie, it does have a high body count, and it's actually pretty violent. Like the one prostitute that gets fucking bludgeoned to death and shit like that's pretty brutal. And there's one really fancy kill in this film with the one lady that gets killed in her
bathtub.
No, I think it's the apartment where she gets killed and she's kind of bent over and the paint's dripping on her after. It's like it's kind of an artsy kill. Like that's actually a really well shot kill sequence with a really nice result and stuff. It's literally paint dripping on her, but it looks cool. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was actually really cool. But yeah, I mean, for a high body count film, they tend to really not shy away from the violence and the blood and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. But yeah, this one, again, like a lot of Lenzi's films, even though like obviously the late 60s ones feel like the 60s, but this one being in 1972 again feels like the 60s. I don't know what it is about his films, but they just couldn't get out of that 60s time. It has that 60s feel to it for me. I don't know why. But another really good kill in the film is the drill.
Yep.
That's a good one. That's actually a vicious, and it's even funnier when you think about it, like who he's killing with the drill. Like, oh my god, dude, like that girl shouldn't even have died. That's the funniest part of the fucking thing. So I don't know. I think I just have a sick sense of humor. I probably shouldn't be laughing at that, but I do find it funny that that's like a total mistake. It's ridiculous. But I don't know. Without like this movie, I just want to reveal the whole goddamn thing. I mean, I guess we'll put minor spoilers, but it's at least it's one of those giallos with a narrative that completely makes sense. It's not ambiguous at the end. Most giallos aren't really that ambiguous. I mean, you do get the odd one that's kind of like, really? I feel like the killer was pulled out of left field, or they don't really explain something that well, or like it just doesn't even make sense. No, it doesn't. Like some there's literally ones where it's like there was one we reviewed a couple. Last year I think it was with it was like a lesbian thing going on. It just like didn't make any fucking sense. Forget what that one was. Yeah. You get that odd giallo where, a character is mentioned, but not really shown it. And that person turns out to be the killer. And you're just like, what? Like, it's misleading to the point where they're leading at all these characters that are on screen throughout the whole film. And then they had mentioned this one character maybe for a second, and that one turns out to be, and you're like, what the fuck? Like that type of shit is just like, to me, is totally poorly written. At that point, this could be anybody, right? So, but this one I feel like actually has a pretty good script to it. So, and I feel like this one kind of gets overlooked a little bit. It never really gets mentioned in like the top giallos or people's favorite giallos and things like that. At least I don't see this one on many of people's personal lists or whatever it may be and stuff like that. I don't know. I think it's because those ones always seem to go to like the Argentos and the Fulcis and things like that. And even Martino gets a lot of love in those type of things. But Lenzi's films, not so much. But maybe now though. But maybe now, Lenzi will start to get a little bit more love because he got the Carol Baker box set out there and stuff like that, and people maybe check those out. So do you have anything else to say on it before possibly getting into ratings? I mean, there's not really.
No, I don't. I think we covered it without going into like a full blown ending reveal pretty well.
All right, so do we have Dave's ratings on these too, right? Don't we?
We do have Dave's ratings. He did send his ratings in.
All right, well, we might as well just read off Dave's and then we'll just go with ours.
Okay, so he gave it a 7 for 7 blood-stained orchids. I guess you want me to go next?
Sure.
Okay. I really like this movie. I would put it up there with some of my favorite giallos. One of the very few giallos that I've actually seen more than twice. You know what I mean? Right. I've actually watched this 3 times. Other ones is like Argento titles. I don't think I've watched very many. And Your Vice is a Locked Room I've watched a handful of times too. I really like that one. Yeah. But yeah, so I think this movie's good. I don't really see much problems with it. I listened to a review of it. I was trying to refresh my memory on these titles earlier this week because I was like, 2 weeks later to record. I always try to watch movies right before we do the show, like essentially or 2 before. But I was listening to a review and they just tore this movie apart, dude. And I was like, wow. Like, I don't know. I didn't really. Why?
What were they saying?
Like they literally nothing. Just that it was so boring and it was nothing happens and the opening's good and then it just falls flat the rest of the movie. It was literally just like repeating that it's uninteresting. It was a podcast I never listened to before, but I just searched the 7 blood-stained
so they
orchids
just wanted like more of the beginning, like straight kills and then just no story at all, because you have to have some
I don't
plot
know.
progression.
It sounded like this particular podcast was trying to get into Italian movies.
Oh, okay.
So it might be one of those situations where like the uninitiated doesn't really understand what they are.
Right.
Maybe. And let's be honest, like some people just don't like them. They don't get into them. They don't think they're interesting.
Yeah.
But I just listening to the review, it didn't really have many critiques that I would say are critiques. It's more just like it's boring, which to me is like the worst critique, because maybe explain why it's boring. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't even know the name of that show, so I'm not even going to mention it. But I mean, they were well-spoken podcasters. They just didn't really have good opinions on this one.
Right.
But yeah, I liked it. I think it's actually really solid. It's entertaining the whole way through. I think that the pacing, despite it having 3 kills right at the beginning and then sort of like a little bit of a lull after, it picks back up again, and there's decent body count and stuff. I give it an 8. It might be a little high, but that's where I'm at.
Actually, I'm actually just a tad bit higher. I'm at 8.5 on this one. I really like I really like the narrative in this one, and I like where how it feeds into the whole Frank Saunders thing, and it brings up that whole angle and how it investigates that, but everything ties in and makes sense. That's what I like about this narrative, right? They're not just like throwing out names, they're not throwing out situations and misleading you to the point where, like I said, there is giallos out there that'll mislead you to the point, and it kind of goes off, and then you get a reveal and you're like, why the fuck? Like, I get the misleading because that's all part of the mystery and stuff, but like, it gets to the point sometimes where it kind of takes over narratives and they don't incorporate certain things properly. Like this one, I feel like it does, the whole Frank Saunders thing, and then and then how it goes from there. Like I said, I don't want to give everything away and stuff like that, but I like that whole thing of how they find out like, oh, he's a suspect, but no, he's actually dead, and then this and that, and then it's pretty cool. It's an interesting one, I think, and again, it comes down to personal taste and preferences and think. If you don't like or have the patience for a narrative that you really got to pay attention to and have patience with, like giallo films are films that you have to have patience for, right? You really do. Everything's not coming to you spoon fed, and it's not coming to you directly. You gotta there's a ride there, and you gotta be on board for it if you want to enjoy it. And I think this one is fun, and again, it has a 60s vibe because it's got the whole hippies thing, and I don't know, all these fucking Lenzi's movies from this time always feel like 60s films. Like I said, Oasis Fear is the same fucking thing, but I like that. It's kind of cool. But good score. It's good. It's shot well, and I think the kills are brutal and violent. And this is one that's just not mentioned enough. It's too bad that Dave wasn't on here. I'd like to hear why he was at a 7 on this one. I don't know if it was a first time watch for him or not, but I feel like
these were all first time watches.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right.
I picked them.
That's right. I'm actually kind of curious because I thought he would really like this one and maybe not like the next one as much, but So I don't know. Sometimes it's the way it works out, I guess. But you never know. Giallos are one of those things where you could have a 7 rating, you watch it again, you're like, oh, maybe I'm at an 8 or 8.5 or something like that. You know, who knows? You notice different things, right? So that's the beauty of these films. They do have rewatchability if you're into them. So I highly recommend 7 Bloodstained Orchids. I think it's one of Lenzi's great ones. So anyways, that's going to conclude 7 Bloodstained Orchids from 1972.
Eyeball, the most blinding horror ever seen. Eyeball.
All right, so getting into the second featured review here on Umberto Lenzi Dux, we're going to go to 1975 with a film simply called Eyeball. I believe this is actually his last of his kind of giallo thriller films. I believe this is the last one. And again, even by 1975, this was like a late entry too. Right, because it pretty much had kind of died off by this time. So,
right, yeah.
And this was a first time watch for you?
Yeah, this was the only first time watch for Umberto Lenzi.
Okay.
And again, I had mentioned on the other recording that we did that nobody will ever hear, so I'll just repeat it now. This is a title that I initially thought was in that Severin box set, the Lenzi box set. That
the Carol Baker. Yeah.
Because I searched on Google Eyeball Blu-ray, and of course the 88 Films one popped up, but I don't think I had time to import by the time we did these shows. And then the other one, and then that box set was showing up, and I was like, damn, that shit was in this box set? I didn't even know. Turns out it wasn't in that box set. Not sure why that was popping up. Maybe just, similar things. But so I ended up watching this on YouTube, which actually had the HD print. I assume it's the 88 Films print. But I had to watch it with like a fucking YouTube horror host who was intercutting into the movie every 15, 20 minutes to do nothing.
What the fuck?
And I was like annoyed as shit. I was like, shut up, bro. And I skipped ahead. Like, it was just a pain to watch it that way, but it was the HD print. So I was like, I gotta watch. I'd rather watch the HD version than the not HD version. So, yeah, so I didn't have the best time like watching these movies this week.
Oh my god!
I did own the Blu-ray of the third film though, so that at least was good. But yeah, I'm wondering if this is going to get picked up by somebody here in the States to release a disc version.
I mean, if any company is going to do it, it'd probably be Severin, I would assume. But yeah, no, it's never had a region one. Like I have an older German DVD of it. So I had imported that years ago because there was no release here. And then 88 put out their Blu-ray, so I picked up that also, which is I think it's also it is uncut. I think the German one is missing a couple scenes. But yeah, so the 88 Films is really, really, really worth the time, though. It's nice. So, all right. So getting into the synopsis of Eyeball from 1975, a maniac killer in a red cape and hood is killing off American tourists on a tour bus by gouging out their eyeballs.
I mean, dude, on paper, sounds pretty fucking awesome.
It does, man. And you know what, man? So I imported the German DVD years ago of this and watched it, and I was like, oh man, I wasn't in love with this movie. And I did find out that it was like slightly cut or whatever. I imported that because, of course, yeah, I think there was like I think there was one or two things, whatever. And so I was like, okay, whatever. But, I had to grab it because there was no region one release. And of course, 88 Films put out their Blu-ray. Fantastic. Rewatched it. And I was still honestly underwhelmed by the movie. I feel like it is a late entry by Umberto Lenzi. He's done a lot of better films in all types of genres than this one. But I just feel like the premise of this movie sounds so awesome, right? It's literally a killer stabbing out people's eyes. Like, that's fucking amazing, right? Mm-hmm. It just doesn't play out like that. It's like ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So what we have here is a bunch of American tourists on a bus in Barcelona, Spain, right? And basically, it's a tour bus. So they stop at these locations, and every time they stop, someone gets picked off. Now, the first thing is, it's like, would you fucking get back on the bus after the first one or the second one? Or like, really, would you just not get back on the bus? Because people are getting fucking pegged off, man. I don't know.
Yeah, and then also people who aren't even on the bus are getting picked off.
Yeah. And, like I said, this one sounds intriguing. But the main problem with this movie is not the reveal. Like, the reveal, it is what it, like, why the person's doing what they're doing.
It's a little ridiculous.
It is actually, it's way more ridiculous than 7 Bloodstained Orchids, man. It's ridiculous. But this one right here just seems so far-fetched because it's so random, right? It's like someone, it's so far after the fact of what so something happened to this person when they were younger. Right? Like a lot of motivations in these films. But it's like a long fucking time after. Like we're talking, 20-something years after the fact? But then the people that the person's killing, it doesn't, there's one thing that's in common, in which, this is a minor spoiler, but everybody obviously has the same color eye, or the eye color, right? It's called eyeball. That's like the main connection between the victims, but in a sense, the victims are all kind of random to the murderer. But the way the narrative plays out in this one, though, man, it's fucking tedious, dude. This one has the worst misleading, the worst red herrings. You know what the thing I hate about this movie, though, is the main guy that's investigating everything, like Mark Burton, played by John Richardson. Mm-hmm. So the investigation seems to always be leaning towards his mysterious wife that isn't with him, right? He's in town for business and he's on this tour and blah, blah, blah. And he's got this wife and there's one thing that leads to another. And then she kind of becomes a suspect because she's not with Mark Burton and things like that. But then it turns out that the motivations were like to kind of use her to kind of pin it on him and things like that. It's just the motivations and the way this movie is written is just so poorly done. It is a poorly written giallo. And I saw Dave's rating on this one and I was like, holy shit. I was really, really shocked at how he came in where he did, because maybe he saw it a little bit different than me. I've seen this movie a few times and it seriously gets worse, I swear, with every watch. Narrative wise, I don't mind the whole angle of this person knocking out eyes and things like that, but I just feel like the whole investigative part of this film is just ridiculous to me. There's so many people being incorporated to this. It's leaning towards so many different people, and I feel like the person that's actually doing this is like, I don't really know, man. Is it like, honestly, like, is she or is that person completely fucking batshit insane, or just, I don't know how to explain this killer in this one. Do you?
Yeah, I think that it's more like, because the reveal seems like more like psychologically damaged, like insane, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, it just the way that it's done, like it's like, oh, this person's crazy, batshit insane. You know what I mean? But I actually honestly kind of really like this movie, and I get where you're coming from with the narrative not being the strongest and stuff, but something about the like the tourists and like the group of people, and it almost has like a Agatha Christie vibe going on to it a little bit too. So
I have this movie I actually have this written down. I said basically Eyeball in a nutshell is Agatha Christie on a bus. It's 10 little Indians on a bus. It's literally what it is.
Right. Yeah, and it really is. And I don't know if that kind of just works for me or whatever. And I like the idea that this person's like stabbing people in the eyes and stuff like that. And honestly, I kind of like the raincoat thing too. How they incorporate the red raincoat, and like the suspects. It's like, well, I don't have my raincoat anymore and stuff like that. I just thought it was a little neat, but I do agree that the like when it's all said and done, it's actually like a really big messy storyline and doesn't make the most sense.
Because once you get the reveal of who's doing the killing, you're like, okay, but then you start thinking about it from a different angle, like psychologically psychotic, like, because you're going to remember this isn't just like a recent event that's happened to this person. It's like so far after the fact. Like, why is this happening now? And
there's really no explanation to why this person just snapped all of a sudden in a later stage of their life. That's
what I'm saying. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's poorly written from that narrative perspective. Like, it doesn't really even make a lot of fucking sense. The link between the victims does make sense based on, you know, the eye color and stuff. We'll give that away. It is what it is. That completely makes sense. But I don't know, man. I just feel like there's so many characters involved in this film because, like, it literally is 10
There's
Landias.
a lot. It's a big cast.
There's a big cast. It's a tour bus full of people. So everybody's a potential victim, from not only the tourist to the actual tour guide to, like, there's other people involved in shit, and it's crazy.
And like doesn't someone's husband just randomly fucking show up who wasn't even on this tour, like the lead's husband or something?
Yeah. And
like where the fuck did that guy come from?
Well, and like I said, like, not only do we have a lot of potential suspects and a lot of characters, like we have like this interracial lesbian couple, which is actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Which is actually kind of interesting. It's an interesting angle in the film because this movie really doesn't have a lot of opportunities to be overly sleazy. So they throw in this like interracial lesbian couple. So we get some, you know, sleaziness through that. And that's kind of why they're there, to be honest, really. Right. Because it plays into the narrative a little bit, but at the same time, they utilize that situation of, you know, the sex and stuff to, you know, to kind of put a little bit of sleaze angle into the film. I feel like that's why it's there. Do you?
Yeah, I agree. And this one actually does feel quite sleazy in general.
Yeah.
The actress who plays the black and Ines Pellegrini, I actually really liked her in the film. She's probably one of my favorite
but you know, it's
people in the movie.
It is interesting when you really think about it, because I never really thought about it till now when I said interracial lesbian couple, but you didn't really see that a lot in these films at all in this time period. Right? Like, you didn't see a lot of...
in fact, the only person that I feel ever touches on homosexual angles is Argento. Right. It's true. And they're usually like side characters, you know what I mean?
Right. And, you know, I mean, it's... but to go one step further, to have it interracial, which was even a bigger kind of taboo thing back in the day, right?
Exactly.
So that...
you don't see... I can't think of really many instances of films, not only even Italian films, but even of the era of the 70s, early 70s, that had a lot of interracial, whether it's lesbian or not.
Right. So that's kind of an interesting angle in here. But it does play into the narrative a little bit. There's some certain things that are kind of revealed in there and stuff like that. And it's kind of cool. But again, like, this movie does have a shitload of characters. There's a lot of, you know, just potential killers. It's almost hard to keep track of. And like I said, it's a messy narrative in the sense where our main character, his wife, becomes a character, and she's not even really in the film. It's used as like a total red herring to mislead. And I really don't like that angle, because they spend way too much time with this mysterious wife angle. Don't you find? Like, I feel like it takes way too much, and they really kind of discount that whole angle right in the main reveal of the film. And it's like, it's something that it takes forefront for so long in the movie. I'm just like, it drives me nuts every time I watch the movie, man, because she's not even there, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like it takes too much. There's way too much involved in that. And I do find it a little bit slow at times and shit like that too. But what is... Oh, actually, no, they do reveal that. I was thinking why they killed the priest, but actually they do reveal why the priest is killed in this film too, because he was like a potential witness, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
That's right. So not only is there just a specific, I was going to say breed of people, but mostly women are being killed in this film. And then, of course, there's a priest that goes down too and stuff like that. But I don't know what it is, man. This one just seems a little bit tedious to me at times. I mean, it's not a horrible film by any means. I like the setup. I mean, there's some things that are happening. You know, to be honest, one thing about the movie that's a little bit disappointing is actually how the murder scenes were filmed. You more or less just get to see like the aftermath, and even from there, it's not even the greatest. I think there's a potentially a really missed opportunity with the one kill where the girl gets her eye stabbed out, obviously, and she kind of gets eaten by the pigs and shit like that. I mean, I get it. It's 1975, and you're probably not going to show a lot of that. You're just going to see aftermath and things like that. But I feel like a couple of those scenes probably could have been done a tad bit better. It just feels a little bit shoddy. It feels like the editing's a little bit off to me and stuff. It's just disappointing, given that, hey, someone's getting shanked in the eyes. I want to see some of this shit, man. So... it is what it is, man. And even like, honestly, dude, it's not even one of my favorite scores. Bruno Nicolai does the score in the film. It's not like one of my favorites. It's not the worst thing I've ever heard either. But yeah.
What do you think of the original title, the Giallo title, Red Cats in a Glass Maze? I kind of like it.
Red Cats in a Glass Maze. I mean, the red makes sense.
With the raincoats, yeah, and they're all...
And the glass does tie into it.
And I guess the maze would be like the mystery of like...
Yeah, obviously.
They're all sort of like in a maze of like not knowing who the killer is,
Right. Yeah,
I thought it was a pretty cool title.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's very simplified to Eyeball.
Right.
Eyeball really does sound like a slasher film name, doesn't it? Like Eyeball. Like straight up. And it kind of plays, I mean, when you're getting stabbed in the eye, I mean, that's very slasher-esque in a sense. But again, a movie with a pretty decent body count. I think there's like, it's a little bit less than Orchids, but it's around the same. A lot of people do get shanked up in this film and die. What do you think about the end of the movie? Like there's a point
in the film,
like the actual not just the reveal of who's doing it, but then like what happens to the killer, and things like what happens to that person. And there's a moment where actually one of the investigating officers says that he's been working homicide for 30 years, never used his gun and things like that. I'm just like, oh my god. There's things like that. I'm just like, oh, for fuck's sakes. It's like foreshadowing to the point of like almost hilarious to me, because you're like, okay, I know exactly what's going to happen. Because why would you say that? Right. It's just, in my opinion, it's got some really bad writing. Sometimes foreshadowing can be funny, but other times when it's like meant to be serious, you're just like, oh man, that was really bad. That was actually really bad. Yeah. And I'm not even trying to catch on to that shit. It's just sometimes it just happens. So it just happens. But what do you think about like the whole kind of last like 10 minutes of the film?
Ridiculous. I mean, I honestly didn't know who the hell was going to be the killer or anything. And then I was also just, I was genuinely like puzzled, like why this like set this person. Is it just because there's like all of a sudden a bunch of people with the same eye color, you know what I mean? Or like, and also the thing with the like glass eye, didn't really understand that either. Like, so it's like, are you trying to put people's eyes in your eyes? Because that's not how that works.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's literally a scene where the killer is like pulls an eye out of a victim and is going to put it in her empty eyes, or in their eye socket, whatever. But you know what I'm saying? Like, but the problem is with the whole glass eye angle is, if you think back on the film and you look at the killer throughout the film, the person clearly does not have a glass eye.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a problem.
That's a major problem, because like it's a major problem because it's quite clearly not. And then all of a sudden it becomes this angle. And then you're like, what the fuck? That's why it's like one of those like left turns, it's like anybody could be the fucking killer at this moment. Right.
Right.
So, I mean, I just have a lot of problems with the writing in this movie. Like, there's so much better written giallos, and, even entertainment value. Like, I think that this one has a lot of lulls in it. I think it just has so much characters that are being investigated, and it's just all meant to like throw you for a loop when the killer is literally right under your nose. Right. So I don't know, man. It's just, I want to like this one a lot more. And I do like aspects of the film. I like the way the killer looks. I like the way the killer is killing. I think the reveal is ridiculous. It's actually funny to me, but it's confusing. I also like the little like sideshow attraction thing that they do with the kill in there. That was kind of cool. Which one?
Like, it's like the little like ride, like the carnival attraction type thing.
Right.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Different.
I still think the funniest thing ever is when they're talking about why the priest was killed and stuff. And like, oh yeah. And then they actually show a picture. They're literally holding a picture, and it's got the killer in the background holding a fucking knife. I'm like, oh my God, that's so, like, when you ever see shit like that?
I know.
It was like, it literally makes me laugh every time. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. That never happens in these movies. That's so ridiculous. I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely one of the more ridiculous ones. It's funny too, because if you go back and you watch the other Lenzi films, like, they're just so much better written in these movies than Eyeball. It's crazy. It almost feels like an afterthought to me, especially like after watching like Spasmo was the film that was made before Eyeball. Do you remember Spasmo?
Yeah, it's a pretty good movie.
Yeah, it's really well written. It's like really well written, and there's a really good twists and turns and reveals in that one, and it plays on the psychological angle, and it plays off a lot of things in Spasmo that really does work. Where Eyeball, like, okay, seriously, we're just gonna have what we're gonna do to the audience is we're gonna make them think that one of these 45 characters in this film is the killer, but they don't even do that. So, yeah, I mean, very, very problematic. You know, it's entertaining, but at the end of the day, if I'm picking something to watch, I'm not popping an Eyeball every single day. So,
yeah. Ratings, I guess.
Yeah. Well, give Dave's again.
Okay. Dave also gave this a 7.
Yeah. Okay. So I already knew that, and I was like, man, I'm confused that he gave this one the same as Orchids
7.
Because I just feel like Orchids is such a better movie, and I would have loved to hear his angle on his rating for this, but you know, it is what it is. I'm at a 6.5 out of 10. I think it's solid enough for what it is. I just think it's very problematic, and it's just it lulls a lot. I think there's just way too much uninteresting narrative in the middle that it's just, oh man, there's too many people involved in this, man. And it's not like I can't keep track of the characters. It's just that there's so many characters in there's a lot of them are just really uninteresting. Besides the like lesbian couple, they're probably some of the more interesting, but I really can't stand the angle with the mysterious wife that is just out of town. It drives me nuts. It's stupid.
Yeah, you actually talked me down a little bit on this one. I was coming in a little bit higher, but after talking about some of the flaws and realizing them a little bit more, I came down a half point. So I initially was at a 7, but I'm going to come in where you did with a 6.5.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, that, you know, it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, I'm not here to try and talk down people, but I mean, if that's what happens, it happens. But
it happens naturally in the conversation sometimes where you don't really think about things.
Yeah.
And I'm not, well, talking through a film, I've changed my ratings a ton of times when talking through the film, you know, because that's where you're actually considering everything.
Right. I think there was a funny moment on one of the shows where Brandon was like, I think you talked me down a couple whole points. Something like that. I was like, wow, that's a big difference. That's pretty funny. But yeah, no, it definitely happens because sometimes you point out things you're like, oh yeah, totally. Right. And you're just like, oh shit, that makes sense, you know? But yeah, no, that would have been interesting to hear Dave's angle on that one because I'm just confused by the same rating on both those, considering I think they're very far apart for me, given 6.5 and 8.5. So, you know, it is what it is. All right, so that is going to conclude Eyeball from 1975.
42 shots.
All right, so getting into the third and final film here on Lenzi Dukes. We're going into the 80s. 1988's Ghosthouse, a.k.a. La Casa 3. Fuck. Oh, man.
Yeah, which is, you know, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the La Casa film series, that was a lot of films were redubbed as La Casa films in I believe Spanish, right? Was that what it was?
Well, the La Casa, yeah, no, it was the Italian title for Evil Dead was La Casa, right?
Oh, so it's Italian titles then.
Yeah. So when the Evil Dead movies came out, they were called La Casa, and then basically this was just piggybacking off their popularity. So you know how the Italians do, they make unofficial sequels to things. So Ghosthouse was just dubbed La Casa 3 as a fucking Evil Dead sequel. Like I think Witchery I think was La Casa 4 I believe, or something like that. There's so many of these that are dubbed into La Casa.
It's La Casa 1 is Evil Dead, La Casa 2 is Evil Dead 2, so right away we're at the same franchise. Then La Casa 3 is Ghosthouse. Then La Casa 4 is Witchery. La Casa 5 is Beyond Darkness, and then La Casa 6 is House 2, the second story, not even House 1. And then La Casa 7 is House 3. Yeah,
which is also known as the Horror Show.
Yeah.
So
which isn't really even a house move.
No, it's actually not. Well, it was never intended to be. That's actually why the alternate title is the Horror Show, and it's been released actually as the Horror Show also too. So, That one is annoying. That
so
movie annoys me.
literally, the horror show is in 2 separate franchises that it has nothing to do with.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and the funny thing is, I don't even like that movie either. So it's kind of like, ugh, it's odd. It's very, very odd.
Yeah, but that's actually, we should do the House series one day. There's only 4 films, and I love the first 2.
Yeah, I know. 3 is one I don't. I like part 4 is like straight comedy, but there's this one funny scene with a pizza that it makes me belly laugh.
The pizza monster thing.
It makes me laugh every time. It's just so stupid, and oh man, it makes me laugh. Okay, so Ghosthouse from 1988. Synopsis: Visions of a deceased girl and her doll bring doom to the visitors of a deserted house. I believe that is kind of like half-assing the. Anyways, I don't want to read the whole thing, but anyways. Ghosthouse, 1988 is okay. So this is like one of those typical Italian films that completely plays off of nightmare logic. So you can't try to decipher anything in a logical sense in this movie because pretty much everything that's happening is so illogic. There's so much illogic to this film. It's ridiculous, and you just kind of take it for what it is. And I think that's kind of what I like about the movie, because if you're familiar with like Fulci's work, and there's a lot of things that happen in some of his films that it's just like nightmare logic. It doesn't matter. That's what you chalk it up to. And this is a perfect example of what Lenzi was doing with this type of logic. Yeah, absolutely. So basically we have this guy that's like what does he work for? He works for some type of radio transition.
He's like an amateur radio operator is what it says. I'm not sure whatever the fuck that means. What is an amateur radio operator? I'm not somebody that has like a public access station or something.
Yeah, I guess they monitor some type of radio activity and stuff like that. And yeah, so he's kind of set up to like monitor certain radio activity and things. But anyways, he ends up intercepting basically a cry for help. Like there's a voice on the other line that sounds serious and real. And it's a person basically screaming for help, like help me, help me, help me, and stuff like that. So they use their 1988 technology to figure out the location of where this radio wave or this radio wave came from it. And of course they find out the location of the house. And so they pack up their gear and they go to investigate because they truly feel like it was actually like not somebody fucking around on the airwaves. It was legitimately somebody that needed some help. So they pack up their stuff. He loads his equipment into the back of a truck and they head out to this house. And basically they find out eventually that this house actually has a history behind it. There was some murders that happened, which we get introduced to. The very first scenes in the film are actually of this mom and dad that get murdered by something in the house, very brutally, I might add. Actually, the killings in the beginning of the film are really cool, and so we get to see that in the beginning of the film. Then it jumps 20 years later into what we just explained right there, and then they end up back at this house, and people end up dead.
It's weird though, because you have like a group of people that break into the house while there's another group of people who are breaking into the house.
I know. It's such a weird setup and things like that, but I know, right? Like, so they get there and then these people are, obviously investigating, but then they meet up with these other people that have already been there. Like this guy's got his equipment set up in the house. And we actually learn very quickly that the voice that our main character heard was actually the dude from the house. But he's like, what are you fucking talking about? That couldn't have been me. I didn't do that shit like that. Right. Which plays into what I said before about nightmare logic, because it's actually a voice premonition, essentially. Yeah. It somehow voiced itself from the future, which they heard to investigate. So it's almost like this supernatural killer kind of pulled them in to like for more victims. I'm not really too sure. There's no motivations to it. It's just evil shit, I guess, is how you chalk it up to be. So anyways, but we get this scene later in the film with one of the characters where he actually walks into this room and something happens and he's like, help me. And they're like, holy shit, that's the voice that we heard on the tape. And then, he ends up died. You know what I mean? Like, it's a really wonky narrative because it's like all over the place, but we do get some inserts of backstory with the old couple or the parents that got killed in this film. As to why they potentially got killed. So this guy worked at a funeral house and he kind of was a little bit shady. He would take things from the dead.
Just stealing shit from the dead people.
Yeah, so like
how creepy is that? You steal a doll from a little dead boy and give it to your daughter.
Well,
that is some fucking creepy shit, bro.
It is creepy because this doll was supposed to be buried with this person, and he's like, no, I'm not burying it with the person. I'm going to give it to my daughter. And it turns out it's obviously haunted, or it's evil. It's got some type of evil entity to it and stuff like that. And which is pretty much responsible for their deaths and shit like that. But like the whole angle of like locking up the girl in the basement and like the investigators never finding her and shit like that it's kind of a weird angle too. Right?
Right, yeah. Like honestly, this whole movie is very weird. Like even like, I mean, it's a little nonsensical. It's super but nonsensical. Like it's the narrative is like kind of kooky. It's just like it's kind of almost hard to explain if you were to explain it to somebody who, like, the gist of it is like, hey, there's these people that heard a radio broadcast and it's like this haunted thing from something that happened in the 60s. But like when you like factor in like the stealing of the body and like the future sort of premonition and like the groundskeeper and like the way the police state that the groundskeepers killed the kid or whatever, and then the
groundskeeper's like that red herring. The groundskeeper's like total red herring, right? You know, he's like the crazy Ralph type character and stuff. Like, there's a lot of elements to this film that are totally ripped off from Americanized films, which makes sense because this is him trying to make an American film, right? Kind of like a supernatural.
It totally feels like it's trying to be an American, like late 80s. It feels late 80s as hell too. Yeah,
like supernatural slasher film, essentially what it is with Nightmare Logic. Like, there's a lot of things, but you know, honestly, man, some of the kills are pretty good. Like, I like the opening sequence with the parents getting killed is actually pretty good, and then the younger sister, the very annoying younger sister in the film, who's always bitching and complaining and fucking moaning about every little goddamn thing. She comes to her death, and it's a pretty good. She gets split right in half. That's actually a pretty good death and stuff. So, you know, it does have its moments in the movie. And to be honest, this is a very entertaining film if you just take it for very oddity it is. Because, like I said, there's so many weird elements because there's really no story. All we know is that this doll is obviously evil. That's all you really need to know. Right. And there's something going on with there. And then there's the other weird thing with the I guess it's like the entity is chanting or something. It's like it's got that little weird music, because Dave even said is like, try to decipher what it was saying. What do you think it was saying when it's like, I think it's saying, hey mom, you there? Hey dad, you there? I think that's what it's saying. It's like, hey mom, you there? Hey dad, you there? I think that's what it's saying, but it's like, so you really got to hear it but you do it. And the thing is, you hear it like 100 times over the film. But I think that's what it's saying is, I think it's saying, hey mom, you there? Hey dad, you there? I think that's what it's saying. It might be saying something else too, but that's how I decipher it anyways. But it's so catchy because at first you're like, okay, that's repetitive. And then it keeps doing it. And you're like, okay, this is kind of funny. I kind of like it.
Did you recognize anything about the house?
It is the same house that Fulci shot House by the Cemetery in.
Correct.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Cool, that is actually really cool. Yeah, I mean, obviously just done a lot differently inside and shit like that, but yep, that's pretty cool. I do feel like, I mean, even with the decent kills that are in the film, like there's potential to have like a lot more. I mean, I guess the body count is pretty decent because it does feel like a body count film, really, right? Like it feels like it's a supernatural slasher is essentially what it is. It's not overly high, but I don't know, man.
It's a fun movie.
It definitely has its moments. The thing about the movie is it really doesn't have. It's not boring at all. Like you're just watching this ridiculous supernatural elements, and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna shut my brain off. It's fun. I really like the music in it. Who does the actual score for this film? I gotta look this up.
Montanari.
Oh, why do I know
Piero
that name?
Montanari.
Why do I know that name? What else has he done that I can recognize? He's done lots of movies I've seen before. Okay. Yeah, the actual score, like his theme score to this is actually really cool. It's really catchy. So that's another thing from these late 80s movies, man. There's a lot of scores that are really good. They're obviously like synth scores and shit, but they really work for what they are. I know D'Amato actually produced this movie. I believe he had a hand in the writing too, didn't he? Did he not write a little bit to this movie? I can't remember. Yeah, I think.
What did you say?
Umberto Lenzi actually. Yeah, he was one of the writers in this. He was one of the producers and writers. So, yeah.
This was at a time where Italian films were not this was at a time where Italian films were starting to be pretty much made for foreign markets because the film market in Italy wasn't doing so hot for indie stuff or like horror, the horror stuff. So this is where we started getting a lot of films that were intentionally produced to release in the States. That's why you start getting a lot more English speaking.
He did this huge wave of like Americanized, like Ghosthouse was one of them, then Hitcher in the Dark, House of Witchcraft and House of Lost Souls. Like those two movies were the other side of the four House films. Fulci did two of them too. House of Sweet Horrors and House of Clocks. So these were 4 TV movies that were made for basically American audiences and stuff. And A Nightmare Beach, which came out in '89, which is a guy on a bike slasher film, which is pretty cool. So he did all these like late 80s movies and stuff, which are actually all pretty entertaining. Like House of Lost Souls, the TV film was fucking. I rewatched both those like last week when we were doing Lenzi. They're super fun, man. They're super fun TV films.
I've never seen those.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I kept remembering the transfers being shitty on those old Vipco DVDs from the UK, but they're actually pretty fucking good. They're crystal clear and they're letterbox, but they're really clear transfers, which is shocking. I mean, Ghosthouse, I don't really know what else to say about it. I mean, it's entertaining. It's Nightmare Logic. The kills are decent. It's got a good score. It feels like a late 80s. If you like all those things, man, it's definitely something to check out. Turn your brain off, man. Just turn your brain off. It's got some decent gore. I like the melty shit at the end. It's kind of cool. I like all that type of stuff. And, just try not to make sense of it and it'll probably be enjoyable. So, I've always liked it though. I've always liked it.
Yeah, I like it too. It's one that I've always dug.
So what's Dave's rating on this one?
So Dave came in at a 6 on this one.
All right. So who goes next?
Back to me, I believe.
Okay.
You know what? I enjoy this movie. I don't think it's like phenomenal or anything. In terms of like just quality, I don't think it's like overly like well made and written. But in terms of fun factor, it's up there. Like it's a good, easy watch. I give it a 6.5 out of 10.
6.5. Yeah, I'm actually at the same rating, 6.5 out of 10 too. It's solid fun, stupid fun.
Yep.
So I mean, really, La Casa 3. Take it for what it is. Ghosthouse, La Casa, whatever you want to. It's decent. So, but that is going to conclude Umberto Lenzi 2, episode 230. Yes, it is late, but it is now complete. And yeah, we barely got it complete again. I don't know.
Dude, we've just been having like such a horrible time with technology and
technology sucks right now. I don't know what the fuck is going on with the Skype, but this is absolutely ridiculous. So, but anyways, man, so I guess we'll be back next week with Sergio Martino. And what are we doing again for Martino? We're doing
All the Colors of the Dark.
Yes. I can't even remember what we're doing. I
can't remember. The Strange Vice of Miss Worth and something else.
Case of Scorpion's Tail.
It's Case of the Scorpion's Tail. That's right.
Yeah. So those are actually all 3 really solid films. So that'll be another good one. And so I guess we're not really too sure what's going on for a third party on the show, but I will probably have one. Maybe it's a special guest. I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it could be a special guest. We might have to break out the 5 questions.
Yep. We might have to do that. So, okay. All right. Well, that is going to conclude the episode. We'll check you guys next week. And we out. Deuces.
Five minutes later.
That's all, folks.